Hello,
WIKI
everybody, and welcome to the
Wednesday.
zoo. I am the Rusty Panda, and I am here for you. It's Wicca Wednesday! Yeah, and we've got SenciaKatner chilling in the hot seat today. We are going to be talking about plants and roses and mythology and cartoons and bacon.
And spilling things and making messes.
Yeah, yeah, and that's the gist of it, pretty much.
Yeah.
So I guess we could end stream now. We've talked about all the items. I don't know.
I guess we're done.
I guess we're done.
That's
Good
all,
job,
folks.
guys. Okay. Do me a favor and lower me a bit on your monitor.
Lower you a bit on my
I went on a blind
monitor.
date with a vegetarian. I've never seen her before. Beautiful. Beautiful. That's a
Okay,
great
hopefully
joke.
that lowers you on my monitor. You're in green on desk. Actually, that might not work. Am I still too loud on yours?
You're not loud.
Or
I'm loud, but not anymore. I don't
oh,
do you
there.
have
Okay, there.
Do you have Twitch running, like the stream?
I've got it up on my thingy. I just set the volume on that, and I realized that's not gonna do it. So I'm back over here on this feed,
Okay.
changing your volume. I think we fixed it.
I think we fixed it. We did.
Does it work?
Yes.
All right.
Perfect.
So
Thank
I
you.
pulled it down to just about the same kind of 3/4 mark that I seem to always need anytime I'm doing this kind of stuff, which means this one is actually the same spot to hit green. Cool. Cool.
Hey, Books. How you doing, Books? Good to see you, Books. Books, Brews, and Booze. Yeah, I feel like singing everybody's name today. That's how it's gonna go. Okay, so let's. I'm curious now. How we can go ahead and figure this out. Now you can see my screen just fine, right? You see that we're on plant. You see that me scrolling, all of that, right? Okay, cool. So first, I want to know what is good. Like, what is up with your name? Not what is up, but like, how did you develop your name?
Oh, the name question. I see. Yeah,
Yeah, that's how we
inevitably it comes up.
start.
I didn't know it was going to be a thing.
Oh yeah.
So I was young. Uh, I don't know. My cousin and I, he's actually behind the camera now. We've always played stuff together, making up characters for like kids playing things, being this kind of pretend thing, future fantasy, whatever it might be, and then Legos and all that kind of stuff. Sencha was just kind of an ego I kind of made in a lot of that fictional stuff. You just make up as a kid, and then eventually, I would say about 13, I actually kind of officialized it as an email. I was just like, maybe I should try to make an email, and it kind of stuck. I never really saw it in a lot of places. It always seemed like be a unique name, and just kind of naturally sort of became an id in a certain way.
Okay. Okay.
At the same time, it's kind of like if you think of the Matrix, like how they are kind of like that self, like this, it would be my Neo essentially. The internet recognizes me as that. The government at this point actually recognizes me as that. It's like sub like my legal name at this point. Kind of strange how it's just
Wow.
progressed into that. But it was just kind of something I just kind of like made up on the spot. I just wanted something that kind of like flowed. It was mostly sort of for like a wizard at the time, pretty much. But then it just settled. It settled and became this thing. And I've oddly enough, we've actually brought a lot of those elements like to life just from the silly stream stuff. Because if it's not an old time game like fantasy, wizards, dragons, and all that kind of stuff, he ends up being a mad scientist doing like crazy shit like this. So it was odd how it was just that natural pairing just happened, and then now we have such as real. It's the craziest thing.
Yeah, Sentra's world is an awesome world to be in. Because
Although
it's
we
filled
don't
with.
have like clone monsters yet,
Oh, no clone monsters.
so we're close to real Sencha.
All right, so Sentra's world is like mostly okay to be in then. Until we have the clone monsters, then we're like 90% Sentra's world is okay to be in. Does that sound what you're talking about?
Yeah, after the planet apocalypse, it'd be cool. It'd be
Okay,
a cool
cool, cool,
place.
cool, cool, cool. I'll come to you. So let's talk about plants, of course. So you've developed this name, you've developed this persona, and then plants. How do we connect all of that? Where did we start to love plants and really get into them?
I've always had a strange thing with biology in general. Sorry, I'm changing a volume setting because Gariki has specified that only your volume is coming through, which is not exactly a bad thing, but I'm going to go ahead and turn up my mic volume in case it is still set to the condenser. So maybe I'm double feeding. I've always had this predisposition to just biology in general and just life, organisms, kind of like that great question of like how, sort of like not really necessarily on the philosophical side of the why, but still kind of that. It's still that grand, deep like wonder that we all seem to just kind of get in our own way at some point.
Hmm.
So I've always been fascinated, like studying animals and animal behavior, interacting with. Always just been, at home around it, cats, rats, all kinds of other crazy stuff. It wasn't until I got a plant from somebody. Somebody had it left behind. They had it, and they were just like, I'm going to end up killing this thing. So I ended up getting it, and it started a whole thing. But there was
Oh.
this like underlying something a long time ago, but I think I really kind of kept it down for myself, just being nervous about this and that, or you're just set and you're sure that like, hey, I'm not gonna get, the equipment or whatever. I'll be a black thumb, whatever intimidation that you set for yourself. I did that with this. I always wanted to do roses, always had a thing for it, but for this reason, that reason, or the other reason, I just never did. And then I got that first impatiens. It was just a New Guinea impatiens, pink flowers and everything. But it really started to kind of kick it off because I ended up getting some succulents and stuff like that. Um, I started doing the roses on stream, and it was just like a thing. I was just like, yeah, this is just natural. This is me. And I've done a lot of thinking and trying to figure out like how it's blown up into this.
Hmm.
But I always think about it, and it's just like, well, there's always that thing with roses and orchids. It's always just kind of like wanted to be around them and have them. I just never did. When you're a kid, your parents are, running a lot of the shots. They're getting all the things. So it's not like you're necessarily thinking, oh, I'm gonna go out and get this kind of thing. You're not thinking of that kind of perspective too much. So when it starts to get, teens and you're making your own individual, choices and stuff, I was a boy. It's weird to like flowers. So sometimes you peer pressure and things like that can play in and, silly stuff like that. But it's always been some kind of thing leading to it. Different art. There's been a rose in it. Armored Core. I used to use a rose on one of my mechs in Armored Core, like way back. Sweet Death. It always had that rose on it. So it's
So,
just something I've always kind of played into. It's just it sprung up late, but looking into it, like I'm trying to figure out like how this crazy like awakening, like this strange calling towards the plants, and then I find that like it really links together to a lot of the other weird critters and stuff. I've had lizards and snakes and scorpions and all kinds of weird things like that, and it's all the same stuff because you're simulating, some outside environment, but at the same time, a little bit more home friendly for just like regular day, casual, everyday life. A scorpion in a tank, you're gonna have to watch out for. Make sure kids don't get to it. That kind of stuff. A cat doesn't knock it over.
right.
Same with a rat, a bird, a parakeet, whatever it might be. There's always some kind of like other thing you have to do. But these guys can kind of sit. Like your biggest dynamic is making sure the dog or cat doesn't eat certain things, but then you could just get other things that'll be okay for them.
Right, right. Okay, so big part of what this is going down the Wikipedia rabbit hole, right? So the first thing you mentioned was impatiens. I always thought they were called impatience with a T.
Yeah,
And
it's actually similar too. It's based off of impatience. Like
oh,
impatience with like a C, if you were to think of it as more adjective or whatever. It's based off of impatience with a C because there's like one of the first bloomers. Uh,
interesting.
early year, cold temperatures and stuff like that. So you can think of the flowers being impatient.
Okay, okay. So this was the first flower that was given to you, yeah?
Yeah. Well, there are a lot of them. There are a lot of them. But it was a New Guinea impatiens. Yeah.
Okay,
So
so
there
let
are a
me
lot of
see.
different types of impatiens, and it's like a really common like indoor type of thing. There's a huge variety. I haven't really studied them a whole lot, but yeah, you get a lot of varieties. But
What
I
I
know that a lot of the New Guinea impatiens, you'll have a similar shape.
yeah.
Yeah, Hakurai. Yeah, there you go.
Okay. I typed in New Guinea impatiens and it's like, do you mean Hakurai? And I'm like, I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah, that's the
Could
one.
be.
There's like a
Um,
lot of
they're
variations of it,
really
all kinds of
pretty
different
though.
colors that they capture. Yeah, they can be cute. Like bright red ones, little pink ones. I don't generally do pink. Like I just don't feel the color. Um, happened to be the first one was kind of pink, but the foliage was really cool. It almost looked like little plastic leaves almost as far as texture, but like a slight shine to it.
Okay.
But it's that red hue. There's like a slight red hue on the edging that I just kind of gravitate towards. These guys tend to have that pretty well. I mean,
Yeah.
it largely does depend on light. UV will bring a lot of that out. Bright, high indexes. UV brings a bunch of that out with like the red and stuff. But
Okay.
inside controlled light, you end up getting just a pure green. Sorry, I was slow to actually loading your chat, so I can say hi, everybody.
It's okay. So okay, so the Hawkeye, so then let's go into roses. So what this is might be a tough question for you, it might be an easy question for you, but what is your favorite rose? I mean, there's a ton of them. Like I love blue roses. I
It's
think that blue roses look like so freaking cool.
I
Um,
th-
but I don't know what they're
it's
called or if they're
tricky.
real.
That exactly what they're called. That's tricky when it comes to roses and stuff because of the popularity, the tradition behind them, everything about them. It's an ever changing thing. As we kind of tiptoed before all this earlier today. The whole weed thing. There is actually a very similar horticulture. I mean, if you're getting past the drug usage side of it and all that kind of stuff, but as the plant, it's the exact same horticulture dynamics where people are picking and choosing, combining little things for this kind of difference and that kind of difference. And you have the exact same stuff with roses. It's one of the other ones that is just so many variations, hybrids. You're changing stuff up to get this one to kind of like bloom a little bit different. Crossbreed this one for higher temperatures, lower temperatures, all kinds of stuff. Long necks, everything. I mean, tea hybrids are a huge thing.
Do
I
you
mean, I
think that
think focusing on a
roses
type
Do you think that
is a little
roses are the
blurred.
most screwed with? Like they're most what tampered with?
I've actually been trying to, yeah, sort of. I'm trying to do some kind of backing. I'm thinking as far as like large scale production and stuff, cotton easily, and sugar.
Okay.
Cotton and then like sugar canes have to be like some of the most that like humans have like messed with. I mean, you're talking corn and all that kind of stuff. Never mind sugar and cotton
Okay.
through the roof. But outside of that, I do think roses and marijuana would be some of like
Yeah.
the biggest, longest traditions on horticulture. Because you're talking about stuff going back, mythology and stuff going back 1,000 years sometimes on either plant.
Right.
So I think I've actually been trying to. It's a little thing that I'm doing. I don't really need to, but it's like this strange thesis that I'm just like curious if it's true. Like that point exactly is if roses are really up there as far as like cloning, crossbreeding, changing all kinds of stuff. Like messed with as you said,
Right. Yeah, there's
because
tons of
there's just a
them.
ton.
The 140 to 180 species and divided into four subgenre.
And then when you're dealing with the for subgenre, and sometimes that's even the stuff that gets submitted for patents. So never mind some of the other stuff that somebody was messing with, didn't really actually officialize it, but say some stuff got outside, they just discarded some of the things. And as we've seen here, this stuff can be stubborn. It doesn't just die because you threw it away. Um, that's the kind of stuff gets out all the time. People are
Right.
playing with different little things. They want this effect. They want the rose to last a little bit longer or whatever plant. They want like something specific, discard the rest. Well, if it seeds, it's a thing. If that seed gets out and it could just go, you wouldn't notice the difference. But
Rose
so I
hips
think
are
sometimes like
high
a
in
lot of those could just
vitamin
be out there.
C and edible raw and occasionally made into jam, jelly, marmalade, and soup or brewed for tea. Now, brewed for tea makes sense to me because it's a
Makes a little
flower.
berry.
Right.
Well, no, it's not even just the flower side of it. You can use the flowers. Don't get me wrong. But a lot of times, what they're talking about is there's a little berry that comes from it. After all the little petals and stuff will off, you'll have this little tiny hip,
Okay.
and yep, we have this little tiny hip, and all the dark stuff you see at the top is essentially like all the little petal pieces. So then under the petal, um, it's kind of where sort of the base of the genitalia, I guess,
Okay,
is.
yeah.
I mean, essentially that's what you're looking at.
Right, right.
So then those will form up and form little seed pods, like those are little berries. And apparently they're supposed to be pretty tasty. And I tend to clip mine off because of the showy perspective.
Okay.
And or that's because as soon as the petals fall off, I clip them because it reads damage, heals, and blooms out more.
Right.
But that's more the showy perspective, and I want to do the propagation side of it a little bit more. I overlooked it quite a bit until late in the year. Just leave them alone. A lot of those are going to be fertilized. So then you'll have these little berries pop up. You can eat them, do all kinds of stuff. You can even take them off, like take the bottom of it, stick them on top of dirt, and then they'll root. So instead of trying to get the
Wow.
seed out of it, you can actually just propagate the damn thing itself. And I want to do that really bad.
Holy
And actually,
crap.
since seeing that with rose hips, I've seen it with grapes, and I feel the call of the challenge.
So I'm trying to see. Okay, art and
Turn
symbolism. I'm
berries
trying to
into plants.
see pets and diseases. See also. I was trying to see like where and when roses were first. Flowers vary in size, colors.
Oh,
Most species
it's old.
Asia.
Yeah, it's one of the long standing things. It's hard to like track to like one specific spot
Specific spot. Yeah.
because Mesopotamians have stuff about it. I mean, old different Asiatic cultures. I mean, it's well rooted. People have
Interesting.
been obsessed with flowers for a long time. And
Yeah.
they have so many different shapes. Like the one that you see in that picture isn't the traditional you think of with the bell and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
But a lot of them will be a lot like that.
Interesting. Okay, so um we're talking about plants and chat has already moved into marijuana. So let's talk about let's get the weed out of the way. We're talking about flowers, let's
Put your
talk
weed
about
in it.
weeds. Right, right. So yeah, even in my topic I said come join the epic talks of plants, green and green plants. So let's all right, so I wonder if it's just under marijuana. Cannabis. Okay, so tell me from a plant standpoint what you know about cannabis.
It's it's kind of cool. It can be surprisingly fast growing. It can be really showy. It's responsive to just different changes. Like you can actually see them kind of like lean, towards light, even a matter of hours sometimes. So I don't know. It is a fun plant to grow. It is a fun plant to grow. It's an observable change. You'll get a good size out of it within relative kind of time frame. It is kind of a fun one. So I would all the other stuff aside, on a growing standpoint, it's kind of cool. I want to do more of it, but I don't really want like the smell to bleed the house. So
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Okay,
so it's tricky. I'm
so
trying to figure out a way to do something like outside, like a little movable greenhouse or something.
this is interesting. So in 2013, between 128 and 232, which is a big gap, million people used cannabis, which is 2.7 to 4.9% of the global population between the ages of 15 and 65. It's most commonly used largely legal drug in the world, with the highest being among adults in Zambia, U.S., Canada, and Nigeria as of 2018. Now, what's interesting is Missouri just made it legal.
Yeah, it's like fully
They
wrecked
just
now.
yeah, it's completely recreational. But some place like Oklahoma, which was like leader in all of this, is not like it's they denied it. It's only medical now. That's what I was told.
I haven't kept up with how a lot of places have legalized it because it's such a crazy changing thing.
It
And
really
if you look at the
is.
full scale of it, you can actually see it just kind of more on the up and up. So if you think of kind of like a bar graph, it's kind of hopping, but it seems like it's leveling out more to where places just kind of don't care on the same level. Even the
Right.
places that are hardcore, like, oh no, don't, they're also at the same time like less like, oh, evil, kill everybody that does it, and more just
Right.
like, let's not legalize it. So like the perspective of it seems to be changing on like a grand scale, where like almost I've been calling it second prohibition for a little while, and it seems to be going away.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it'll be interesting if it got legalized throughout the U.S. I think that that would bring a lot of interesting changes um, to commerce and
Yeah, it can
the
change for commerce,
economy.
but at the same time, just there's kind of a subtle effect. Like when a culture gets over some kind of thing, like even just misconceptions and predispositions. It's kind of a good thing. You'll see a lot of crazy stuff here on Twitch. You're seeing a big embracing element of this whole acceptance of it. Different streamers have stuff. Firestone Rockstrums, you'll see them pull a bowl every now and then, and it's not such a stigma. You can see you sit there and watch them do the thing, and like the content doesn't just become weed and that's all we're going to talk about. So it
Right.
doesn't just like drown out things so much. Shock factor is going away, and
Mm-hmm.
it seems like people are kind of used to like you do it or you don't do it. It doesn't have to be like stigma and no stigma. You see, if someone's smoking a cigarette, I mean, you might have that thing like, oh, smoking's bad for your lungs, but you're not going to think nearly the same thing about it.
Right.
And the same thing with like a beer. Like somebody has a beer at a party, even if you're not a drinker, that person has a beer. That's that. Weed ends up being a little different. Like, oh my god, do you smell weed? And sometimes it's that cop perspective.
Yep.
The
Yep.
overall sense seems to be going away, and people can kind of focus on other things. Because some of the legalities and just the whole judicial system, some of the stuff, effort, money you put into it is kind of ridiculous.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if you go back to there's an old movie, Reefer Madness. It just
Yes.
captures it beautifully. It
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
captures the whole effect beautifully because like they meant it when they were making it. But if you just look at it from just a sensible, realistic perspective, it's ridiculous.
It's
It's
insane.
ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it just
Yeah.
captures the paranoid perspective of like, oh, it's so bad. It just brings its own caricature like or caricature to life. Like just the whole perspective just caricaturized right there.
Upon
It's
trying
awesome. I
it, they
love it.
become
It's a cult
addicted,
classic.
eventually leading to become involved in violent crimes such as hit and run accident, manslaughter, murder, conspiracy to murder, and attempted rape. While all this is
Yeah.
happening, they suffer hallucinations, descend into insanity, associated with organized crime, and one of them commits suicide.
Jumps out of a window in the courthouse.
Oh my god.
Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert if you haven't seen
Yeah,
this like nearly 100-year-old movie.
I know. That's so crazy. Yeah, 1938. That's wow. That's crazy. That's crazy. Yeah, I remember them dancing. That's the. Oh, you could watch the whole
Yeah,
thing right here if you
it's
wanted to. That's
ridiculous.
funny.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
It's that easily accessible right there. And oh,
right there
nice.
on Wikipedia. So,
The
okay.
interwebs is a beautiful place.
So I was talking with um thank you for the subscription info czar. I was talking with I forget who. Actually, I remember who, but I'm not going to mention. But I was talking with them, and basically, is 2 times Sencha audio in the stream. Panda audio is 2 times Sencha's audio in his stream. I'm at full. He's at full here, so I don't know what's
Oh.
going on in his stream.
It's just volumes. It doesn't seem like my mic wants to respond too much.
It might be because your mic is here. Yeah,
Yeah,
here.
mostly it seems to be because it's there.
Yeah.
I'm mostly trying to shout and port everybody this way.
Right, right. No, that's
Zensa
fine.
Garuki. Oh,
Um,
Shakes is in here. Look at that.
but basically, the main thing is that I discussed in what would happen if a doctor was seen smoking a joint. Would you still go to that doctor? Now, I would, but with how it looks to the public, if you see your doctor at a bar, you're like, oh, it's my doctor. He's having a beer. But if you
Yep.
see him smoking a joint outside, how long until that's okay for the public to be okay with that? And I thought that was a brilliant, because he is a doctor, and so that's brilliant to me on how he's looking at it. What are your thoughts on that?
It feels like it gets there much more. More and more people are found to have had in their system, this, that, and the other, seen in public. I see it all the time here in just middle of Ohio. I see it all the time. People are just out like with it.
Right,
So it's like very just more open and no one has to worry about it. So
right,
it's just more casual and just relaxed because it doesn't make you insane like
right.
certain
And it doesn't
propaganda
make
films
you
might
addicted
suggest.
and jump out the window. Yeah. Now
Yeah, I've
they
never
were
jumped out of a window,
no, no.
or at least
Now
not after I start smoking.
maybe if I had to escape from something, but other than that,
In my younger days, I was a little bit more
right, right.
wily.
So yeah, chat was talking about earlier how they become paranoid in certain situations after smoking. And so somebody had mentioned, well, then you're not using the right strain. So I find that there's indica and sativa and then hybrid, right?
That's
Indica.
the common, yeah, essentially that's the common breakdown. But I think the focus on one versus the other is just it's at a point where it doesn't seem to work too much.
Yeah.
Because what you're gonna get is it's more of like a balance. Everything is balanced. Everything is like some kind of hybrid. To find a purely indica or purely sativa is it's tough. I mean, the strains are out there. Don't get me wrong, but especially finding them with the percentages that are like just regular and popularized at this essentially status quo. It's just a little less. So
Right.
finding like strong, purely sativas and indicas, it's not like it's difficult or anything like that. It's just not common. You don't see
Right.
it around. It's not commonplace. What you're going to find, calling up a guy, going to a pharmacy, anything like that, something somebody has a party, whatever it may be, it's going to be a blend of something.
Right. Now, I found this funny. Global estimates of drug users in 2016, cannabis had a high estimate of 234 million users, whereas opioids only had 40. I say only had 44, and amphetamine was 55. What I find interesting is that following close behind is ecstasy. And I don't see a lot of people like just taking ecstasy on the streets, but maybe I'm just jaded and I'm not in the right areas. But I find it interesting because you'll see somebody smoke a joint, you might see somebody high on opioids. The amphetamine type stimulants, I'm not quite sure what that's referring to. Like coffee or like,
Meth.
oh, meth. Duh. See, I'm just
You might have seen more people on
on
meth
meth.
just out and about than
Yeah,
you realize.
yeah, especially in some of the spots that I've lived in Missouri. Um,
I work
but
with it.
yeah, yeah, I bet. But ecstasy I found was an interesting one. That's to me is that's an interesting one. Okay, so
Well,
go
a
ahead.
lot of these, you have to think about setting is a heavy element of, a lot of the stuff, just the part of the experience in general, whether it's like some kind of spiritual thing, ayahuasca, peyote,
Right,
that kind of stuff, all the way to ecstasy. There's still that sense where your setting is hugely important. Shrooms and hallucinogens, that's the golden rule. I don't, I'm terrified of that kind of stuff, but
right,
I've been around I know the cultures and stuff. So like, that's the golden rule is the setting. And it's one of the unspoken things when you look at statistics and stuff like that. Ecstasy is just like I think one of those very overriding type of things,
yeah,
and just the natural other side, like public exposure and decency is not good. And there's a natural thing that kind of comes about with ecstasy. Often, it's a sex drug, and that's just
right,
not very
right.
much like public
Public,
type of thing where you're just going
right,
to see it on a street corner quite as much. Whereas
right,
cocaine, other kinds of things like that, you're going to be able to do it, go out and about, and just risk, getting found by the cops or hiding it, whatever it might be.
right.
Other things, the setting's just different, I think. So I think the setting really plays into how it's perceived in those kind of manners,
I agree.
and largely like going out and about. Other things you can kind of function a little differently. Like I said, ecstasy is a little different. I
Right.
have seen it just a certain place, and someone's just like really frisky and strange, like jaws and itchy. You can tell they're thirsty and
Right,
stuff, and
right. Yeah, I mean,
it's there.
I've been to
Not common.
parties, college parties, and I've been to raves, like that, and you can
Yeah,
totally tell that that's the environment. It's just was interesting to me in this list because to me, I don't see people like going out shopping while on
yeah,
ecstasy. Like, you
exactly.
know what I'm saying? But people can go out high or whatever, but not high in ecstasy. So that just brought it up. Meth Surrey, that's
Yeah, high
exactly
on
correct, Eroom.
grocery store and ecstasy is totally different than grocery store and pot.
Right, right. Because then you're buying a lot more food when you're on pot and you're at the grocery store. You're like Oreos, bitches.
Yeah, I've
Um,
gone home with a cheesecake a time or two,
okay,
pounds of
so
cherries.
let's come off of cannabis as much as we want to stay on it, and move to. I'm interested in why you wrote honey because I love honey.
Because I love
Um,
honey.
I
It's like a
love honey.
strange, like, I
So
love
let's
honey.
talk about honey for a
I have a
minute.
flute of some amazing stuff upstairs.
What about creamed honey? Have you had
Creamed
cream?
honey, candied honey.
Okay, so you've
It came
had
out of a
creamed
bee's
honey
butt.
before.
Yeah, I've had like all kinds of crazy iterations. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, yeah. Because creamed honey, to me, we have, so we get them at the Ren Fair. We have the tubs of them. We have cinnamon, vanilla chai, peanut butter, and regular. And I literally, Galvos had to have his own containers because he goes through it so quickly that I needed my own container that was safe and sacred.
I can see
So
that.
creamed honey is the best. But let's talk about your love of honey. So like where did this develop from, or like what was it, just like you tasted it once and you were like friggin' addicted, or like how did it work out for you?
I think I have no idea when it started. I've just always been really into it. It's like one of my favorite sweeteners. I love the smell and the taste, the look, everything of it.
Yeah.
Like it's just one of my favorite things.
Have you
And then
looked
once I got into
into
more,
bees? Like have you looked into like how it's made?
yeah, actually, one of the streamers on here, Tuafawa, Tuafawa. I want to say it more correctly. Tuafawa popped in my stream. It was a follower in the early days, like a year ago. I couldn't think of it. And then I saw them streaming one day, and the first time I saw them, they were at a bee farm, and I was absolutely fascinated. It was the coolest thing. I would
Wow.
love to do it.
Yeah.
If I like got a farm so I can like grow all the things that I want to grow, little other like hybridizing experiments, the crazy little things, my little
Yeah.
private estate. I would have to try bees. I would have to try bees. Roses, get a little bee thing going on,
Oh
even some of the other
yeah.
flowers and like specify. Because at this point I gotten into like real honey and then like specifically pollinated honey even. And like I love it. I would love to do it. Love to
Yeah.
do it.
You'd be the person to do it too. Like I could see you being the mad scientist bee guy in the outfit and
I do like
everything.
bugs. I do like bugs. There's been a lot of games where you have like swarms of bees and things like that. I usually tend to like those characters.
That's funny.
So it is a thing. Like I've had some bee swarm stuff that I was just in love with in games. So I
Have
would totally do it. I would
have
totally
you
do it.
ever
My little army of
smelled a
bees.
beehive before?
Yeah, a time or two.
Yeah, the smell of a beehive, like the fact that you can like touch it and it kind of melts a little bit, like there it has a specific smell to it that I don't know, reminds me of a different time. Like the honey smells like one thing, but a beehive smells like something completely different. And I don't know
Yeah,
if
it's
you've
got
had
that
that
little bit more.
experience.
Yeah, it's a little bit more waxy. You have
Hmm.
that kind of organic, almost musty. I guess maybe I'm not describing it right, but
No, I mean I
yeah,
think
definitely the
you're.
waxy tones.
Yeah, yeah,
Definitely the
yeah.
waxy tones. Even like live versus just a collected honeycomb. There's definitely yeah.
Okay, so what other foods are we talking about here? So we've got honey and we've got bacon. That's a nice little segue there. So, making bacon pancakes, making pancakes, making bacon pancakes. Do you know that song?
No,
It's by
I don't think I do.
Okay, so it's by Adventure Time, and I can't
I,
play it because I'm gonna
then I
get
might. Then I
DMCA'd.
might
But it's
because it
making
sounds
bacon
familiar.
pancakes, bacon pancakes, making bacon pancakes. Um, I can't remember the last part, but
Because I've watched all of Adventure Time, I just don't remember the specific. But I think it's something.
oh,
I
making
kind of remember, like you singing
pancakes.
it. I kind of remember it.
And then they made a whole like EDM background to it. So it's like making bacon pancakes, bacon
Yeah,
pancakes.
I think I remember a whole production thing.
Okay, so let's talk about bacon.
James Baxter.
Let's talk about bacon. What's on your list? What's going on with bacon?
Bacon is like awesome. It's just awesome. If there's bacon around, I'm gonna have it. And then you watch on things, there's like this weird religious thing with bacon. I think bacon is a secret religion, and nobody wants to talk about. It's a secret religion. It's the secret star of the show Supernatural. If
Okay.
you look in there, it is one of the earliest, one of the longest running cast members. There's like this weird joke about it. I think you can maybe it's not wiki. It might be a fandom or something like that. But there's a thing about it where it's like this unofficial cast member of the show because the all of the shoot, I can't think of their damn last name. Sam and Dean Winchester. Thank you, bit. The Winchesters all love bacon
Oh yeah.
except for Sam. Sam's like the only one because he's a vegetarian.
Okay.
Although he does eat actual bacon at least once in the show. Dean tricks
Oh.
him, convinces him it's veggie bacon, and then he eats real bacon. He's like, "Damn right, it's real bacon." Yeah, so it's just like a thing, and I've always just loved it. It goes with everything, and it's just like at this point, there's this almost just weird culture of bacon. I feel jokes about bacon, all kinds of stuff. I
Yeah.
love it.
Do
I
you
love
like
bacon.
it
If I have bacon around, I eat it.
soft or do you like it hard?
Yes.
Yeah, you'll eat it either way. Okay, but you have to have at least a preference. You like it like
Okay.
limp dick or do you like it like rock hard?
I think my favorite would probably be thick cuts. Um, Usually peppercorn,
Okay.
thick cuts, chewy, hot and chewy.
That sounds really good.
The
Yeah.
extra white pieces, because when
Right.
that kind
All
of
the
fries a little bit, it gets this like
right.
crunch to it. And it's super greasy. I like the fatty stuff.
Yeah. That right there. I made a
Hmm.
steak
And you just
yesterday and
look
it
at it, and
had
there's an
beautiful
instant.
white parts to it. It totally could have used some bacon, but
Yeah, marbling. Yeah, I love
yeah.
marbling in meat, especially in bacon. It's just
Um,
like a thing that you look at it, and there's immediate response. People will just feel it. You know, other people feel it the same way.
yeah, I agree. And pork belly is like a delicacy, especially if you have
Must be.
pork belly in like a skillet, and you just pork belly pieces. Oh my god, it's so good. How do you not love pork belly?
And bacon's like the thing that keeps on giving. You fry up some bacon, you have all that grease in there, right? Don't pour it out. Pour it
Right,
into a cup.
right.
Cook everything with
With the
bacon grease.
bacon. Yep,
It's fantastic.
absolutely. Infozar must be cringing right now.
I know, right? Books and infos they're like,
um, yeah. But okay, so bacon has been around for like friggin' ever because it's cured meat essentially.
yeah.
So let's see. The most common
Yeah, it has a
sold.
long history too, actually. And like depending on how you want to define it as bacon, if you just kind of simplify things and think of all that kind of sliced pork stuff, it's been a thing for a long time.
Yeah, yeah. I like this one that says Bacon Mania. But wait, I'm gonna go up one. Salted pork
I think
first
I think
appeared
that's
in
the term for it. Yeah.
China. In the Middle English, the term bacon or bacon referred to all pork in general. Before the Industrial Revolution, bacon was generally produced on local farms and domestic kitchens. The world's first commercial bacon processing plant opened in Wiltshire in the 1770s. Interesting. So, okay, bacon mania. So chocolate covered bacon on a stick. So how
You can
like
bacon everything.
weird have you gotten with your bacon?
I'm still trying to find out like how far it goes.
Yeah.
I don't even know, because like once I have it with something, it like fits so well and became so natural. It's like, oh, this isn't weird at all. I've had it with things involving banana, and it turns out bacon and banana is a surprising combination.
What?
Peanut
Wow.
butter and chocolate, even other kind of things. I've had it alongside like fruit stuff.
Interesting. I don't think to
It's a
me it
miracle
wouldn't
meat.
go with fruit, but I definitely think it would go with something savory like peanut butter.
Yeah,
Um,
you know, in the right conditions and stuff, depending everything else with it, you can make it go with grapes. It's got that heavy earthiness, like the iron type of sense. Like it can go with cherry stuff pretty well, surprisingly.
Bacon and cheese. That's a
Bacon
good
and
one.
cheese, yeah, that's definite. Yeah.
Think about like a cheese fountain and you just have hard bacon and you just dip it into the cheese fountain. Now that's a wedding I would go to. Okay, bacon
Cheese fountains are awesome.
cheese fountains are amazing.
See, cheese also should have made it on the list. That's what I was saying. Like, I suck at listing things. I
No,
suck at listing
that's
things.
it doesn't matter. We're still talking about it. So we still got there naturally. Um
Secretly a list of like 50 likes.
oh, nice. Okay, so German Greibenschmaltz used as a spread, I'm assuming is a fat from bacon.
Griebenschmaltz.
Right.
Yeah, it sounds like it'd be pig fat.
Then it goes into health concerns.
Ah,
So, yeah, we'll skip that part. Turkey bacon,
it's
bacon,
liquid fuel.
vegetarian bacon, here we go. Also returned as fakin. Veggie bacon or bacon is a
See,
vegetarian bacon made from plant matter.
you start walking a sketchy line. We start just tacking the bacon name on everything. I have nothing wrong. You know, I love turkey strips. I don't see why you call it turkey bacon. Vegetarian? Well, why don't you just make it like a meat substitute strip or some kind of veggie strip or something? It's not bacon. It's not bacon. It has to be pork to be
That's
bacon.
how I feel about pizza. So I feel like Chicago pizza should not be called pizza. It should be called a casserole or something along those lines.
Right.
Pizza is what happens in New York. It's a pizza pie. That's what happens in New York and New Jersey when you have a pie of pizza. But
Yeah.
pizza should not be called Chicago style pizza. It should be called Chicago casserole or
Yeah.
something along those lines. So I feel the pain with bacon names. Bacon bits, delicious. What have you
Yeah.
added
Can't go wrong.
bacon bits to, like besides salads and stuff? Are you a salad
What
eater?
haven't I? I probably haven't put it in yogurt.
Okay. I don't think
I
I've
would
done
say
that
ice
either.
cream, but that would actually be false.
That yeah, that actually sounds kind of. They have bacon and ice cream, and I can't think
Yeah.
of.
So I
Oh
could
my
say
god.
not yogurt. Bacon bits. Well, probably a lot of Chinese food. There's probably a lot of Chinese food where I haven't put it like much bacon on. Just circumstance.
Yeah, for sure. Um, I'm all grainy right now, and it's driving me crazy. Um,
Quit
okay.
being grainy.
I know, right? Well, by the way, I wore my flower shirt today.
And
I
it's
haven't.
confusing the cam.
Yeah, that's what it is. I haven't worn this shirt. I've had this shirt since like early college, but let's not talk about that. It was like the only flower shirt I had, and I was like, I gotta wear. Actually, I had another shirt. I was gonna like, I'm gonna wear green for Sencha, and then I remembered I'd be keyed out. So like the green screen would like key me out, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, I can't do this. So I went and changed my shirt last minute. Thank you, Galvos. Okay, so baconaise I saw, which is I find interesting. Bacon
I've,
salt, which I would
I've
eat.
had bacon jams. I was really turned
Oh
off by the phrase
yeah.
bacon jam. And then I tried it. I was like, oh my God. Like, it sounds gross. It's essentially bacon slime,
Mm-hmm.
but it's delicious.
Oh, 100%. There's a
I was
cookbook that
surprised with
says everything tastes better
bacon
with
jams.
bacon. That's a
Yep.
good book.
Yep. It
Um,
improves everything.
Absolutely, 100%. So
If there's cooked bacon around, I have it.
coming off of bacon, let's go into cheeses. So, what's your cheese of choice?
All cheese. All
Right,
cheese.
that's fair.
Favorite, strong baby Swisses.
Okay,
And then like the sharper the Swiss, the better. I love it. And then Gorgonzola. Gorgonzola is probably my top.
gorgonzola is very very good. My favorite is the
Mm,
most white girl favorite, and that is goat cheese. I can
nope.
eat goat cheese and bacon jam like you don't even friggin' understand. Um,
They'd go together. They would match well because the goat cheese is gonna be subtle.
right, right. I have so much cheese in my fridge right now. What's the cheeses in your fridge? Like what's your staple cheeses now? I know the Swiss you like and the gorgonzola you like, but is it in your fridge?
Not at the moment. Like when it gets got, it gets
Eaten
eaten.
immediately.
So
Yeah.
right now it's cheese food stuff
Okay.
and probably some sticks of like little Colby for my
Oh,
nephew. I steal
yummy.
them all the time.
Yeah, yeah, those are
You get
super
these like
good.
these little Sargento, however you want to say it, little
Yeah.
sticks.
Earliest evidence
I'll
of
steal
cheese
those.
making dates back to 5,500 BCE and is found in what's now Kuyavia, Poland. Okay, I thought Kuyavia was a country, and I was like, I am very not cultured. Where strainers coated with milk fat molecules have been found. So I would love to do a cheese making because I freaking love mozzarella. Like
Yeah, it'd be pretty neat.
I can't not say that my love for mozzarella is. I'm from New Jersey. It's an intense part of my grain. I have sticks of mozzarella with that's pre-cut, so I can put it with my salami and balsamic. So, you would like to cheese make? What you would do the mozzarella making?
For me, I would probably try to make like a Swiss or something, or even like something blue. I
Oh
would love
yeah.
to, if I ever, tried it, it'd be kind of neat. Like I said, that farm environment. Who knew I would kind of want to be around a farm?
Yes.
But if I were to ever make cheese, it'd be kind of cool. Something blue, like gorgonzolas or just any other blue. Um, Swiss would be a pretty cool one because there's like certain things involved with Swiss that kind of makes it a little unique, sort of.
Yeah.
I don't remember like all the specifics, but I know there's something with the bacteria and the actual like milk that they get. But
Wow.
Swiss would be a cool one. I
Yeah.
know they pump it with some kind of gas to get the or some kind of bacteria to get the holes. Essentially, they're little gas pockets.
Interesting. So yeah, most cheeses activate their final shape when curds are pressed into mold or form, and then they
Tofu is the same
ripen.
process.
Oh, does it?
Yeah, tofu is like essentially the same process. It's cheese made out of soy.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I hear cheese curds and I immediately go Freddy's. I don't know if you have Freddy's by you, but they have cheese curds that are delightful. And books, you should not grow mold on food. That's that's not advised.
Helps
Um,
build the immune system. Penicillin.
yeah, yeah. But cheese curds. Are you a cheese curd? I mean, you like cheese, but are you like a cheese curd nut? Because I feel like I'm a cheese curd nut.
I'm a dairy nut in general, like
Okay.
milk and cottage cheese and curd, whey. I do quite like yogurt and stuff.
Okay.
I'm kind of in like the whole like dairy thing in general. I
Oh,
love milk,
yeah.
milk and cheese. Yeah,
I can't do milk. And it's just it doesn't work with me. Like I can have milk products like ice cream, but when it comes to like drinking milk, I just can't do it.
science. I love it. Chug it, and chug it, and chug it.
That won't happen no matter how long McNasty McDonald's and you leave it out and it won't. I just threw out a little cake that my friend left here on January 11th, and it was in a little plastic container in the back of my fridge, and I just now threw it out today. So, and it was molded, just in case
The
anyone was
colorful jingle.
wondering. Yeah, it was a funfetti cake, and it was not so fun when I pulled it out of the fridge.
Nice, nice.
All right, so hard left. Let's talk about like scorpions and skulls and skeletons and stuff. Where do you want to start with that?
Where do you want to start with it?
This is your show.
I don't know. Skulls.
Skulls? Let's
Skulls.
do
Yeah,
skulls.
let's do skulls.
All right,
Skulls and skeletons.
skulls. It is. Oh, cool. This one has a
Oh, neat.
rotating skull. Um,
Rotating rat.
yeah, yeah, mouse
Mouse. Okay,
skull.
mouse. Well, it's a
Mm-hmm.
rodent.
It's fine. You got it. Okay, so why skulls? Like, what's the fascination?
I think in younger days, it was more, kind of the coolness a little bit is kind of where it kind of picks it up. Just that the immediate impression of like the coolness and creepiness. I was always like a horror movie fan and all that kind of stuff. So there's like a big effect to it. I think over the years, like with it sticking to me, I've tried to figure out what this obsession is because I have a lot of stuff. I mean, there's like a bunch like above the Kim, I think. A bunch up there, tattoo, one in the
Oh
aquarium. Like
yeah.
it's a thing. I love the art of it. Drawn them. I've tried to. Well, I've never picked it up, but there's like a little wooden block I was whittling into a skull. It's got the shape. I just need to work on some details still.
I'm picking
But
your
it's just like
skull's
a.
nose, by the way, the one above your head. Picking its nose with my cursor, so hope
Also,
it
you
likes
see
it.
them up there. Oh,
Yeah, yeah,
cool.
I could see them up there. But keep
Oh
going.
yeah, the planty one. Yeah, yeah, yeah. The planty one. I forgot. There's one of the Horthias in it.
How many
But
skull items do you think you have in the house, or out of the house, or around?
well, there's a bunch upstairs. All right, so there's like a crystal one. I have one that's actually part of a bone segment at some kind of excavation site. So it's not really skull, but it's
What?
carved and actually here we go.
Oh boy.
Easily something like 20. There's gonna be like at least 20. Because up top I have those guys, little small ones, a little chrome, a couple other decor ones, a cup. My niece actually got me this cool little cup. Like it's an iridescent skull. But yeah, this is a actual bone, like human bone.
That is so cool.
It's like at some excavation site. They got like whatever rights or something, but some kind of
Yeah.
dig site of some sort. It's probably something fresh, really. It's probably medical.
Right,
They
right.
probably got it through medical chains.
That's so
Like a little
cool.
crystal one. Like I
Oh
said, my
wow.
the one I was carving upstairs. I've got the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 right there. There's one in there. One's a planter. I want to do more of those. Cup. So off the top of my head, probably something like 10 or something like 20.
That is so
Got two on my
freaking
leg.
cool. So, I mean, are you interested in the what is it, autonomy? Is that the right word? Like, or anatomy? Are you interested in the anatomy of the bones, like how it's made and all that? Or are you just interested in like how cool it looks, or
It's a bit
both?
of everything. I've
Yeah.
I've done a search to figure out, like, what it is about it, because I know it's not just the morbidity of it. Because sometimes people look at it and it's like, "Oh, it's cool, it's so dark." I mean, sure that it's got it to it, but I think there's a crazy poetry to it. Because you look at the skull of basically any organism, it's like the physical, signature, physical soul of whatever species. It's one of the most unique, individualized thing to whichever species. Sometimes they look super similar, like the mouse and the rat.
Right.
But honestly, if you look at it right, the mouse would it'd actually be a little bit more stubbly, and there's other little ones at first glance, especially not entirely a trained eye. It kind of looks the same, but you look a little closer, you're like, oh, you can start to see the differences a bit.
Right.
And person to person, you don't really see them so much, but person to, I don't know, chimpanzee, you're just gonna know. You see a cat skull and you're probably gonna guess.
Right.
So it's like one of those things where it's just it's got this soul to it. There's something profound in the image, no matter how you're trying to look at it.
Right.
Whether it's some kind of cool thing, the morbidity of it, maybe you need something kind of creepy. You're just looking for something piratey. There's like some poetry to it that seems to stand out to a lot of people throughout. I don't know, a lot of art, a lot of visual, and even poetic art. Written art.
Yeah.
It's in poems and plays and all that kind of stuff. So it's just, I think it's just this kind of natural image for us, and you can actually see other species recognize their own skulls. Elephants, chimpanzees, certain species will recognize the what's underneath the head of its own species, and that's kind of a
Wow.
crazy thing. Like, why would an organism naturally develop that ability to recognize its remains? So, I mean, that's kind of,
Now
to me,
is
kind of like a standard of like sentience a little bit. That's where you're in higher scales to kind of recognize and add ceremony to it, and
do you think that
mourning and all that kind of.
symbolizes death to like the elephant? Like if they see that, they're like, "Oh shit, I'm gonna die somehow," or like, do you think that's why they recognize it? Or
Well, if you're looking at a lot of animal psychologists and behaviorists and stuff like that, there seems to be a exact same kind of mourning sense that we have.
okay,
They will carry the skulls around, especially upon the first dying. They will take it. They will take the skull, or at least what they can, to a burial ground of either the entire species. Sometimes it's like family, but yeah, they'll bring their ancestors together, drag their skulls around, put them all in the same spot, and go revisit and hang out. So it's like this mourning and remembrance. They make their own graveyards and cemeteries. Not entirely the only species to do it. So it's like this higher, cognitive thing. It's just like there and it happens. We're not the only ones to do it.
right,
So that has, that it says something to me about it. So I mean,
yeah,
even animals, we think of them as, lesser, they still appreciate the whole thing to it. But even past, the morbidity and, the death aspects of it to it, there's the symmetry to it, just the anatomy side of it. It's just fascinating. And something about it, I just love the look of like exploded skulls, articulated skulls, and more in uh, taxonomy, but, or I should say, I'm sorry, taxidermy.
taxidermy.
But
Okay,
love the look of it because it's like kind of the verge between science and creepy. So it kind of brings it
yeah,
out. You can see the individual things. It's a skull, but you can see, all the individual pieces on a more analytical base.
yeah,
So it's kind of like you take them, you articulate them, explode them, and you're kind of verging the poetic and scientific almost. But it seems to be just one of those things where it just verges the boundaries. But then, like you're talking about, the whole death aspect, it's something that just forces you to think like that is
yeah.
something that happens. Like it's gonna be, and it'll kind of bring it out. So to kind of bring us to it, so that maybe we can sort of overcome the fears of it, perhaps.
Yeah, I
Just yeah,
agree with that. I
it's a
think
powerful
that
image for me.
that's a good way to look at it. Now, what about the so like question one is would you get like a skull tattooed on you?
Yeah, I have one on my shin
Not surprised. Number two,
with a rat on it.
number two, brains. Do you care so much about the brains as you do the skull, or are you just more fascinated with the bones of it all?
Yeah, I'm still fascinated. Yeah, brains
Brains?
are really cool, especially brains in jars and stuff. And I need to do it. Couldn't figure out why I really needed to do it. I was like, it'd be really stupid. But I really want to make a prop of a brain in a jar with like a little dome and stuff. And then at some point it clicked. Abby Normal from Young Frankenstein. It's like, so that's why I needed to do it instead of it just being like a silly thing. Because a mad scientist has to have a
Brain
brain
in
in
a
a jar.
jar.
I
Yeah.
was trying to figure out why that was a thing. And Young Frankenstein. There's always like a movie reference to basically every part of me, just about.
Yeah.
And that's one of those things. So I think we're gonna have to do it because it's absolutely like brains are kind of cool. It's
Yeah.
just kind of like a cool look, like the brain in the jar. It's just kind of creepy, but still scientific.
It would be really cool to have that be a vase or vase and have a
Yeah, it'd be
brain in
kind of
the
neat.
jar, but
Yeah,
like also have a divot so where you have like a rose coming out of it. That would be really symbolically cool, in my opinion.
like a wide base and start propagating stuff. I didn't think
Yeah.
about actually like propagating in
Yeah,
a
because it
brain
looks
tank.
like a vase to me. Vase, vase, whatever you want to call it.
A tube's a tube.
uh, okay, so scorpions is something that I had mentioned. So why Scorpion? List of Generation 4 Pokemon. Okay, no, that's not what I want. Scorpion's the band. Absolutely not. Can I just talk about the animal, please? Thank you. Okay, so
Arrow.
this
Is that
is the one.
scorpions?
Perfect. It's totally totally on topic. Okay, scorpions. What do we got? What do you know?
Looks like a whole bunch. Well, I don't know. I think I know more than some, but there's no way I'm an expert on them. I think it was kind of at a young age, getting kind of fascinated with them, watching a lot of biology shows like
Okay.
Steve Irwin and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I'd be kind of hypnotized by like scorpions and cobras. So then I started pursuing it, and I would say late teens, I saw some emperors at Pet Place. I was like, I'm going to try it, and it was really neat. It's obviously not something you're going to handle. You're not going to pet, so it's not going to be the same, enriching type of thing. But on an observation level, they're super fascinating, really, really cool, and kind of a very unique type of thing. Totally misunderstood.
Yeah.
There are a lot of misgivings to them. You see scorpions, you're thinking of like creepiness, danger, poison. There's a lot of stuff to it that just doesn't really fit. And you start to study them a bit more, and there's an entirely different nature to them.
Hmm.
Like they don't have to be just this, creepy, intimidating image. The moms will keep like a couple dozen on her back for a while. So there's that whole thing. There's like a weird dance. The mating ritual is very weird, but it's a weird dance. They wrestle, and then the thing happens, and he gets
Yeah.
out of there because spiders get super hungry after the thing happens, and the girls tend to eat the boys.
Right. Right.
Scorpions and spiders, yeah, same thing happens.
Now,
But it
okay.
just every more I looked into them, the more fascinated. And again, even if you look in, you get past some of the kind of creepiness of it. There's this, it's a real beauty to them, like the symmetry and everything to them. You look up close, the color, the shine, and everything to it. There's no reason, just a normal perspective. You just look at it and not think like, oh, that's pretty. But sometimes you're gonna think bug and ew, and you have all these like misconceptions and predeterminations and a lot of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You get past those though, they're super pretty, super pretty. They're really cool and fascinating. So just the more I studied them, became more of a thing.
All right.
And
So, first
first tattoo
tattoo.
is
Oh, that's really
scorpion.
cool. That's really cool. What do you know? What kind of scorpion that you have on you, or is it like what type?
It should be well at this point, can't remember Tanzanian or Ethiopian. Imperator. I'm sorry, Pandanus Imperator, Emperor Scorpion. But it was like a red variation. So you have a couple subgenres of the emperors that'll be kind of red. One has like blackish tones around the outside. Think it's the Ethiopian, and the Tanzanian should be full red.
Okay.
So it's
So.
basically just a subset of emperors, which just come out red,
Do, do.
and I loved it. It was like this really ruby kind of color.
All right, so let's talk about mating first. So, because that's the first one that came up, I want to find your Tanzanian one first. But all right, so this is the male and female scorpion during promenade adieu. Sex. So,
Sex.
so they wrestle. Da, 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 da.
Yeah, it's odd. It's an odd thing. the act is kind of cool because it's like a dance. It's not a fight, you know.
Right.
He's the one that's probably going to die. It looks like he's being aggressive and hurting her and stuff, but he's the one at risk.
Right. Receptive
And
females
that's
produce pheromones which are picked up by wandering males using their pectines to comb the substrate. Males begin courtship by moving their bodies back and forth without moving the legs, a behavior known as juddering. This appears to produce ground vibrations that are picked up by the female.
the
They,
jiggle.
oh yeah, and the dance is called
The jiggle.
promenade
They have these like
for a
little
walk for
combs.
two.
So they have these like little V-shaped combs that like when they're walking around, they like feel the ground when they're doing stuff. Those would be the pectines. They have like these little teeth. They're kind of right there if you think of the heads, the claws, and stuff. Got these little combs essentially on their bellies, and they'll feel the ground like as they're walking. It's actually one of the ways they see, but
Oh,
it's also like kind of connected to. It'll feel the area essentially to where to do the stuff. So
got
it's
it.
like kind of used for the mating. It's not exactly part of the genitalia, but it is a sensory organ that they need it so they can find the hard rocks to put the spot. So what the boy does is he detaches his penis, essentially. It's like this little penis sack, takes it off and actually deposit it on some goo on some kind of hard surface. It has to be
What?
nice and flat, some kind of an area for him to wrestle her, dance her onto it into the right position. So he needs to make her, you know,
Dance onto it.
sort of get penetrated by it,
Right.
and then yeah, and then that happens, and then the stuff, and then he's got to get out of there
Yeah,
because
yeah.
she'll get
After
very
mating has
hungry
only been
fast and she's
reported
strong.
anecdotally in scorpions. Sexual cannibalism is the word. Weird. I love how the dance can last from a few minutes to several hours. Am I right? Am I right? That's how it works.
Yeah, they can take a minute. They
What?
can take
They're
a minute because
fluorescent?
sometimes he can't get a grip on her, or maybe she's just not turned quite the right way.
Okay, tell me about this fluorescent shit. This is cool as hell.
So scorpions glow in the dark.
That is so
And they
cool.
grow. They can hit different colors. Just UVB, just any amount of UVB will make them glow. And being a purely nocturnal type of thing, like they're active at night, you might think like, oh, that seems odd. Why would you want to do that? Because that means that they're going to be responsive to the moon. The moon will reflect quite a bit of UV. You can see them pretty well at night. So people that go out and collect them in Texas, it's like a thing. Arizona, you're just wilderness people. You're going out and about. You can find them at night very easily. They're going to be active and out more often, but also visible. So it's actually like a weird thing that they've tried to study for a long time. But they all have a different type of iridescence. Like I've had probably like a dozen different species. That's like a classic blue, green, turquoise. That's very, very common. But again,
Wow.
emperor. The heterometris is very, very similar. It looks almost identical. It's black forest. It's a different genus, but they have a similar kind of glow. Other ones have been a little bit more yellow, kind of orange. I think my Babicerus had a Babicerus jacksoni. It was a rusty red thicktail. It had like a bit of an orange glow to it.
That's
So they just have this cool
crazy.
fluorescence that just pops.
Okay.
And doing a lot of research on it, I think I've come across the why that I'm convinced.
Oh, yeah?
I think it's partially how they see a little bit, kind of. Like their glow is kind of an eyeball. So they have weird eyeballs. So the flat head, little tiny eyes, and then eyes around the ridge too. So they have eyes kind of around the ridge, like right above like the little mouth pincers and stuff, and then kind of like a spider, like also a little set kind of on top of the dome. So they have all these weird little eyes covering this crazy upward, like everything upward, not exactly downwards, because imagine that if it's on top of like a flat thing, you
Right.
can't see under it. So they have really good sort of view of everything above. The focus is shitty, so they can't really focus on it, but they can relight really well with it. I think the most convincing theory is they have all these little hairs and stuff, which also sort of help them see, and they're sort of linked to their ocular system in like really creepy ways. So they can actually kind of see their hairs like feeling the stuff. So they're small, flat, hiding under leaves and stuff like that. It's like supposed to be a way. So basically, like as they're coming out just ever so slightly, if any bit of them responds to the UVB, they're gonna see it and know, oh, I'm out and go back in. So it's for a way for them to monitor how showy they might be to everything else. So while they glow and they're more visible at night because they're responsive to UVB, It's also a way for them to be able to see that, hey, I'm a little out of this rock or leaf, then I want to be, things can see me and then they can back up. So it actually kind of aids to their stealth. And I find that fascinating. Seems to be the most plausible that I've come across
So why are they pissed off all the time, stinging people and whatnot?
because they're not mean little things. Everything eats them. Everything eats them. They're defensive little guys. They're misunderstood.
Oh,
Everything
okay.
is gianter than them and trying to squish them. They're sensitive little guys. They're not mean trying to get people. That's just how they do.
That's
That
just
frog had no business. That frog had no business. He should have known. It was in his nature.
that's
It was in his
funny.
nature.
All right, so and this I saw this chart too. I thought this was really cool. How we have sea spiders to horseshoe crabs to sea scorpions to actual scorpions, back
Yeah, and you
to
see,
tarantula or not tarantulas, spiders, back to these type of spiders.
and then even like the overall shape and structure, it's odd how much that kind of like sort of frame is out there.
Yeah, yeah. That's crazy. Scorpions are cool as shit. You've made me convinced.
They have some
Um,
killers and stuff. Like my number one would be a black fat tail, but you have to be careful because it is an androgynous. It can kill you.
yeah. I don't know
Yeah,
about
I've
having
seen.
one for a pet, but I
I
definitely
love
think
them.
they're cool as shit.
And actually, part of this whole crazy thing is also part of like that obsession. It was a dream at one point. Like it'd be awesome to have a spot so I could do all my crazy like bug and like reptile stuff. I wanted to have like a whole bunch of different, species of scorpions, just like a whole wall. These kind of racks actually with 10 gallons. Like these are measured out where I could actually use them.
Wow.
The whole plan's actually just been converted to light, but this is like this first light shelf is sort of the first attempt at actually finally setting up a scorpion tank wall. I just never ended up doing it, and then the plant thing became a focus and took up all the space.
That makes sense.
Um, but a greenhouse and everything I want to do with the plants would be the exact same thing. So oddly enough, this weird little like dream of making the Mad Lab an actual physical place, oddly enough, is still part of that same like first crazy dream. So it's odd how like all that crazy stuff like came full circle. It was
Yeah.
like a pipe dream thing that was just like, exotic pet stores, the dime a dozen, they just fall apart super easy. So I
Yeah.
just, it was one of those things I never actually wanted to try to do because you can end up in a lot of trouble owing and stuff and just never quite getting there and you have to shut it down.
Yeah.
But even just having them on a collector basis, you could put the two together. Same conditions, humidities and all that kind of stuff, because imagine that they're living under the plants and stuff.
Right. Ah, I think you got it all figured out. I think that if you want
I
to do
got part of
plants,
it,
yeah,
end
yeah.
goal.
End
So it's like a
goals.
quadratic equation. My brain likes to work like that. One part and then the other part, and then you got to go back and forth until you find the 2xy in the middle.
So let's dive a little bit. You were talking about like Young Frankenstein and stuff. What other like movies, musicals are you keen to?
And actually, that's one of the other things about the shitty listing skills. I'm ashamed that I didn't put Rocky Horror Picture Show like number one on.
Oh my god, do you know that right?
Huge
Okay,
Rocky.
I have a little segue real quick before you tell your first Rocky Horror story. I have to tell
First
mine.
Mad Scientists,
Yes.
Frankenfurter. That's my top dog.
We went to a yard sale around the corner from my house. And around the corner from my house, they had a VHS for Rocky Horror for $5. So we scooped up all this money to get this $5 VHS tape and we
That's some
watched
big
it.
savings.
Yeah, I know. And we
And
watched
we
it.
watched it.
And we were 11 and it was it became a cult. We didn't know how big it was, we didn't understand. We just knew that it was a Rocky Horror Picture Show and that my friend's mom had it and she loved it, so that's why we got it. And we were 11 and we watched it, and we watched it religiously like every single weekend for like a year. So and then when I was finally like 15, I went to a show. So tell me your story. How'd you get into this?
Well, realizing it was like a Rocky thing was probably high school.
Okay.
Classic high school story. Friends go into it, and you got into the culture. But oddly enough, I didn't know I had been listening to some of the stuff earlier ages. I'm a big Dr. Demento fan, and early on, I was exposed to Dr. Demento collection CDs. Some of that had Time Warp. So
Yeah.
Time Warp and a few other songs. Apparently, I had listened to Rocky Horror songs
Okay.
since I was a wee little lad and never even knew until I was going to it in my teens. It's the craziest thing. But like since then, I love the culture of it, the silliness and everything to it. I love the music. Haven't been to one for a long time, but it's one of those things like when you go to them, you know exactly, yeah, you just know what's happening. But like
Absolutely.
when you hear people about people going to a Rocky show, it's just like people went to a Rocky show. They're picturing maybe a movie, a play, or something like that. But when you go to one, if you get hooked into it, you know what it is, and then
Yep.
you understand what it's like. Like I haven't been in one for a while, and I miss it so bad. And you're like, yeah, I know.
Since
So it becomes like its own weird just thing, but it's just it's awesome. I love it.
since I moved here to Kansas City, I have not found a Rocky Horror, but I know there is one. There's always one. I just have
Yeah, there's
not
always one
like
somewhere, even the tough
right,
places. Yeah, there's always
right.
one somewhere.
And we went to
Even when
this
that little theater troupe stopped, there's someone somewhere.
absolutely. And on my 19th birthday, I brought in 12, 13 people to a Rocky show, all of them virgins, except for one.
Nice.
So they all had to do the virgin game, but they had to separate it up into three different games because there were so many people. And they all had lipstick V's on their head, and I was like, "This is my 19th birthday. This is what I've peaked. This is this is where it tops off."
I
um,
haven't acted in much. I've been Dr. Scott twice,
yes,
at least partly. Someone was like sick part way through on one, and then like wasn't there one of the other times, and they kind of skipped part of it, and then they realized I was up front as usual. I'm like, oh shit, let's get that guy again. So I was
that's
Dr. Scott twice. It
amazing.
was awesome.
I'm so jealous.
And
I'm
that's some
so
kind of peak type of
jealous.
stuff too. I was a character technically in
Rocky Horror
Rocky
Picture,
Performance at least.
so
It
that's
was nothing big. It
amazing.
was a little small like independent theater,
Oh,
but
who cares? That's awesome. Um, and then what was your Virgin game? Did you have to do a game or your first show, or did you bypass that?
the first bypass, but then it caught up to me at one point. It was I didn't take off anything. I can't remember which one I ended up in because there was a couple of times where they needed extra people, and I just went up anyway.
Right, right.
So officially, I've been diversionized a few times. I didn't do the drag race or anything, and sometimes those are very colloquial,
Yeah,
where different places kind of make up their own stuff.
yeah,
Ours had a bunch of different things. Drag race was a thing where they got the two jockeyest guys, put dresses on them, made them run around the theater,
yep,
like race back to it.
yep.
They stopped when one of them ran into a pole and ripped his maleness open, but
Oh my God!
and they
Ow!
cut that a little bit after that. But
Yeah.
yeah, that was bad. But a bunch of stupid games. I did the juggy once. It was like the jug competition, or usually it's girls with like big, but they had to put balloons in. And you just put your chest out and jump and
Yep,
stuff. So
yep.
I wasn't
The
really fully in drag, but I don't have a problem. Like if
yeah.
it became the circuit, I could put a dress on. I'm not ashamed.
They did the wet t-shirt contest like, "Hey, it's raining," right? And so it was um not ring around the rosie. What is it called? The chair game where you have to go around the chairs. Uh what's the chair game where you have to
Musical
go?
chairs.
Yes, musical chairs. They did musical chairs, and if you lost, you got squirted with the squirt bottle. And I was wearing a white t-shirt, and I did not want to get squirted with the squirt bottle. So I can honestly say
That's the
that
point of it, though.
no,
That's
hell
like why they
no.
do that.
Absolutely. So
That's
I
exactly why they
I
do that.
won my virgin game. You only get one,
Oh,
and I
nice.
won my virgin game, and I still have the air freshener that they gave me, the Rocky Horror air freshener that they gave me. I still have it.
Nice.
I try to associate myself with better kind of people than that. You're associating yourself with the wrong people.
For real.
Yeah.
The wrong people entirely. Rocky people are the right people.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Uh-huh. Um Okay, so are you interested in Halloween and stuff? If you're interested in Rocky Horror, I mean, you've got the goggles on your head, so I'm assuming that you're interested in some sort of Halloween aspect. Is that true?
Yeah, I'm definitely in a Halloween spooky ooky type of stuff. I got a little jack-o'-lantern kind of thing on my little Frankenstein guy.
Mm-hmm.
This is my little Frankenstein helper. It's a zombie. It's
Oh,
a
I didn't realize
former
his
mannequin
face.
model, and I've got a zombie head
Yes.
on there.
Yes. That's awesome. Now,
So yeah, I love Halloween
what
stuff
do you
and
normally
pumpkin
dress up
carving.
as?
It's always something different. Last time I went to Sencha.
So you said
I know it
pumpkin
wasn't really too
carving.
clever, but it was
You
a little
said pumpkin
sentimental to me.
carving, which makes sense because pumpkins are a plant. So, what is that like your thing that you do for Halloween?
Oh, I have to. Yeah, I love it. I have to do it. We books in your chat actually does some Halloween themed raid trains,
Right.
and that's usually what I kind of aim for. Last Halloween it was pumpkin carving. I'm probably just gonna stick to it because I love doing it.
Yeah.
Found a pumpkin carving streamer actually. Haven't seen
What?
them go live yet.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm
wow.
all about it. I've loved carving since I don't know forever. It's a fun way to sculpt. Pumpkin just smells really really good. Fun to eat.
Yeah.
I can make a pumpkin pie from scratch.
Oh my god, and pumpkin seeds, don't get me started. I could
Yeah,
eat the
pumpkin seeds.
shit out of
Yeah.
pumpkin seeds. We talked about this last week too with sarcasm and shots. We talked about how good pumpkin seeds are. I have pumpkin
Yeah, I was
seeds
chomping on some
on
not
my
long ago.
my desk right now. I have pumpkin seeds.
Yeah, yeah. I was actually chomping on them then. Yeah, yeah. Sarcasm shots. Yeah, I was chomping on some pumpkin seeds then actually.
Oh boy, we're in a raid. We are in a raid. Ragged World. Welcome on in, raiders.
I don't know if you're in the raid or had received the raid. I think you're more the other side of it. Had received.
I had
Hey
received the
guys.
raid. But Veer Karanov,
Semantics.
Infozar, welcome back. Kane, by the way, thank you for the resub. Ragged World, Alchemutation, formerly known as Alchemuation. Um, Raid. Good to see everybody. We're interviewing SenciaKatner, as they call him on the East Coast, SenciaKatner.
Cat.
Uh,
Say
um,
chat.
do coffee grounds help plants?
They do.
Are you a coffee
They do.
fan?
I'm a huge coffee freak.
Yeah, let's talk
It's one
about
of my favorite
coffee.
smells ever. It should, you know, it's another thing. I'm ashamed didn't make it on the list that I suck at listing.
You're doing great.
I love coffee. It's like that's another one of those like religious types of things. The smell of it, everything. Turns out coffee is also very friendly to like the whole plant growing process. I've poured all mine in the dirt, so I don't really have any collected up right now. It's the best fertilizer you're gonna get. You don't need to get any of those like weird, crazy crystal blue stuff. Use old things, especially that, because you're throwing it away all the time, and it's got a ton of stuff in it. Like it's a fantastic fertilizer,
Let me see if the
fantastic fertilizer. And if you love
seed.
drinking it, you're gonna have it around.
Oh yeah, I mean today I was like I need coffee. I need coffee and so I went to Walmart because they had the cheapest Starbucks coffees in the cans and it was like
Could have been Wilkins coffee.
288 and everywhere else was 467. So I went, I got 10 of them and I literally made a trip out into the world just to get coffee because it was early in the morning and I needed it.
Oh
So
yeah, I've made trips out in the world for coffee. Absolutely.
let me see. Ecological effects. So
Better drink Wilkins coffee.
I don't know what Wilkins coffee is. I don't even know if it's around me. What is
Ragged's
Wilkins
got to get it.
coffee?
It was a thing on Ragged's. It was old commercials. I think it's like pre Kermit the Frog.
Oh
Like Kermit the
wow.
Frog before he was Kermit the Frog was in some very vulgar commercials where if you didn't drink Wilkins coffee, they were threatening to shoot you essentially.
Oh my god, that's so
Yeah,
funny.
Kermit the Frog shooting other puppets over
That's
Wilkins coffee.
the commercials are hilarious. I'll have to look into them for sure. Very random. Unshaded coffee plants will grow with fertilizer, yield the most coffee, although unfertilized shaded crops generally yield more than unfertilized unshaded crops. The response to fertilizer is much greater in full sun. So, yeah, that's pretty
Yeah,
cool.
because the light balance, like heavier light coming in will kind of boost the growth aspect of it, and then they'll kind of need that physical component, like the nutrients and stuff like that, to help build the actual structure. So a lot of times those two will go hand in hand. The fertilizer usage you need is going to go up with the brightness.
Interesting. All right, so we touched on coffee, we touched on roses and scorpions and skulls and honey. Let's talk about whiskey.
Yeah, let's talk about whiskey.
So yeah, there's whiskey or whiskey, depending on how you spell it, which we had talked about, I think, in Infozar's stream for like 45 seconds, Or basically we were saying that one includes being in the barrel itself, while the other one includes this might have been my stream. I don't even remember. It might have been when we had sarcasm and shots. But basically saying that whiskey with a Y is one that is, yeah, it tells me right below. Okay, Panda, let's get with the world. Two spellings. There are two schools of thought. One is a spelling different matter of regional language. The other is that the spelling should depend on the style or origin of the spirit being described. The agreement is when quoting the proper name printed on a label, the spelling of the label should not be altered. All right.
Yeah, like why you spell one with an EY and why isn't it agreed upon. The only really thing that everybody seems to agree on is if it's here, it's whiskey EY, and if it's
Right.
there,
That's
it's
why.
whiskey little Y.
Right, right.
That's the only real thing to it. Is these guys chose this, those guys chose that.
Now what's your favorite whiskey?
I'm probably gonna say usually scotches.
Okay.
Scotches are probably gonna be my number one. Although I do go for like very rich like bourbons and stuff.
Okay. Okay.
So
So Scotch, we've got what kind do we have a brand that you're into or
I think I am a single malt kind of guy. Glenlivet has always been one of my good go-tos. I do love Glenlivet. I
okay.
think my favorite bottle was probably Glenlivet 15 year. There was a bottle of 15, it had a double cask. I've had a bunch since. Bellavini is awesome, awesome. You have Macallan, Aberlour. Every time I get a hold of just good old single malt, I love it. But then you get into other areas where it gets a little different. I think Highland is like very like peaty
Okay.
and smoky. It doesn't really do it for me. Blendeds can have a little bit more of a bite to it and be a little bit more bitter often.
Okay.
It's not like I dislike them. Glenfiddich and Chivas. Chivas was the first scotch I ever had.
Okay. So
Chivas, Johnny Walker was well, I think the same night. So Johnny Walker and Chivas Regal were like my two. I think Johnny Walker is a single malt, but it was like a 10 year. It was like black, so it wasn't really anything special. The Chivas was 12, but again, it's a blended. So once you start messing with it, you can kind of taste it. It's like a little bit more of a bite on one. The other one's just a little bit more smooth, kind of rich.
Galvo says Glenrothes is his favorite. What's Glenrothes? Do you know that one?
No, I do not.
All right.
I'm still, yeah, I'm still trying new ones. I see new ones sometimes. It's like, okay, yep, we got to try one of the new ones because I'm still testing out scotches in general just to learn them. I'm really curious about one called Erdbeg, because it's such a Scottish name, and I want to try it really bad.
Let's see. Kentucky
I do get
bourbon.
distracted by like Aberlour, Macallan, and Glenlivet. I get distracted by those often.
Okay, let me go back because I said list of whiskey brands, and it's not giving me what I want. So
Well, it's
even
going to
if
be a crazy list because you're going to have your sour mashes, true bourbons, Canadians. There's a big pride in Canadian whiskey, Irish whiskey, obviously. So there's certain places where the tradition is pretty rich. It's steeped.
okay,
Even here in America, it mixes up quite a bit because you're talking about like bourbon versus just some kind of sour mash kind of mixes up a little bit. Even the whole like white lightning culture. Now, official white lightning, there's like one family that was doing it. Although these days I heard they went to legit, so I don't really know. But moonshine is just a generalized term, but there's like a whole world behind it. So how they do the whiskey, the legality of it, all the kind of crazy stuff.
yeah,
You'll find that tradition gets involved like heavily with whiskeys.
I
And
saw
I kind of get
that. I
into it.
saw that there's different. There was when we went back to whiskey itself. I was talking about the not regions, not blended, ownerships, economic effects was one of them, and labeling was the other.
Yeah.
Um, just the fact that it's so intense. Oh, there's a Scotch Whiskey Association. Interesting. All right,
Don't mess
so
around.
you said Glenlivet, and that we just looked at the Glenlivet distillery for a hot minute. Um, you said whiskey, or you said Scotch whiskey, and then what was the other one? It started with a B.
Uh, bourbon.
Bourbon.
Yeah, I like me some bourbons.
Bourbon whiskey. Okay, so what do we got with bourbon whiskey? What are we
My
feeling
top is
here?
probably going to be good old fashioned Maker's Mark. I love
Maker's
Maker's Mark.
Mark.
To me, like it tastes like kind of how you expect a bourbon.
Maker's Mark. Here we go.
Oh yeah, the Maker's Mark is actually the candle dipping.
Yeah.
The dipping in the wax. That's the mark.
And what about it is your if it tickles your fancy?
It's rich and warm. It has, a very kind of smooth, heavy, flavorful kind of profile, like a lot of single malts. So to
Is
me, it's kind of like the American version of single malt scotch.
Buffalo Trace. I don't know that one. Do you know that one?
No, I'm still learning a lot of these ones too. I've had like Boulet and stuff like that. There are a lot of other like real bourbons that I'm trying to get a hold of. Bourbon gets a little tricky because then you'll have a lot of other just to me mislabelings like Jim Beam bourbon it's a sour mash.
Okay,
It's a sour mash. That's not a bourbon to me.
that makes sense.
So like sometimes like it'll just have bourbon on it just because of whatever labeling it might have. Technically the right amount of aging, but it doesn't really have like natural like kind of flavor profile. Most traditional bourbons usually trying to shoot for, but it'll have Kentucky Straight on it. Like Jim Beam has it, and I don't really like it.
Yeah,
But I like bourbons. Boulet, Maker's Mark.
makers. Yeah. Just so you know, Buffalo Trace Distillery was first introduced in August 1999. It's crazy to me, May 2001, how new some of
Yeah.
these are. Um, it's crazy. So you were talking about Maker's Mark. So if we look specifically at Maker's Mark,
Well, sometimes with bourbon though, you'll find legitimizing when they can is a big factor because sometimes it'll be the same family doing it as like moonshine for the longest time. So you got to buy a bottle of something. If it's branded as moonshine, it's just a cutesy name that they put on it. The
right?
moonshine just means it was not made through legal means. That's all it means. Usually like strong. So I
Okay.
mean, they kind of mix it up a little bit. So I mean, region, there's a lot of weird stuff. There's a lot of like weird stuff to the whole process.
Yeah. So Maker's Mark is 1958, 90 proof.
Yeah. So some of
Um,
them are a little bit richer and have like older dates on it, and then some popping up in the 90s, and I think even got a little bit more popular as like 2000s and stuff like that. Bigger, kind of popular, like the names of type of thing nowadays, but a little bit later than you might expect because again, it's just kind of how the families or whoever's making it when they can get legitimized.
the ones that have like blue label and black label. What is that? Which brand is that?
Johnny Walker. It's the age process.
Okay, and Johnny Walker is a
Oh, I'm
Scotch.
sorry, Scotch.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, it's another Scotch.
Now you said you didn't like the Johnny Walker scotches,
Well, the
or you
black was
do?
10 year. 10 year is going to be a little bit weak. It's not going to have as much like flavor to it. So a lot of times, if you're getting an 8 or a 10 year, it's going to be cheaper. I mean, that's
Okay.
the point of it. It's going to be less, exclusivity, less, flavor. It's just supposed to be kind of like less, simpler, basic, more to the point. And usually, you'll actually kind of get the flavor profile with it. Like louder Scotch is just some kind of cheap thing you're going to get. I think it's like an 8 year. Johnny Walker Black, I want to say it was like their, or maybe red. I don't remember which color is which. It's like their low end of it. So that didn't have like the best taste to it, but at the same time, it was more like the casual price.
Okay.
Where Johnny Walker Blue is a 20-year bottle. It's also like $150 for the bottle.
Yeah,
People
Johnny
like
Walker
it.
Blue Label in a gift box.
I would try it. I
Um,
would try your own Johnny Walker Blue because it's supposed to have more flavor. So I would assume it's a little bit more comparable. I've had okay, so the black is the 12 then. Okay, so I don't know their 10 and 8 year, but it was kind of weak. So the black label is not bad.
yeah. My brother got
Red label. Okay.
black, and I thought that it was, I thought that it was pronounced. I was very young, and I said he got a bottle of Black Label, and I thought that was the name
Black
of it.
label. I love
Um,
it.
but Galvos can tell you that there was no. He did not like the Blue Label over
The blue label.
over the black one. Is that true, honey? You tried both of them and you found that the just like wine, sometimes the more expensive, sometimes they're not as good as the less expensive.
Yeah, sometimes the age and the year of it. I mean, the price is gonna go with the age and the year.
Right.
Um, but sometimes that's not necessarily the thing. Because I've had Glenlivet 18. It was good. Don't get me wrong, I loved it, but it was just my favorite bottle was definitely the 15. It's just more, I think, the wood that they chose to barrel it in. It just had something a little bit more floral, almost sweet, I guess, to it. Whereas the
Okay.
18 had more of like a spice to it. So sometimes that plays in like heavily. Like the barrel that they chose for that, while it's a 18-year bottle, you might like something 15, 14 years, or whatever, just because of how they barreled it.
Right. Right.
So sometimes it's not, absolute. It's more just the exclusivity side to it. There's less of them because it took
Right.
longer. Like a 20-year-old, 22, 25 years, that's where the prices really start to go up. But I mean, I
So
want to try more of them. It's just you're also looking at the price of the blue label. That's not really like, oh, I'm just gonna go grab a bottle real quick, see how much I like
right,
it.
right.
I'm gonna want to know if I like it.
He said that he liked the blue label over the black label, but it wasn't as good as scotches that were a third of the price.
Exactly, exactly.
So
Like to me, Johnny Walker doesn't really stand up to price comparisons.
yeah.
Like every time I have it to one of the other ones, like the red was like weak, and I could have sworn they had a 10-year. I just don't know what color was on it. I don't know if it was a special release or what, but that was like the first I had. It was a 10-year,
Huh.
and it was kind of weak. But I mean, the first time I was like, this is kind of good. He thought I shot it back, but I let it breathe and everything. It's my first time, and I knew what to do.
Right, right.
I mean, it
Um
was good at the time, but then having other ones since, I've found other ones that I like, and I find how kind of, to me, plain, I guess, Johnny Walker is.
yeah. Glenlivet was just go to
Glenlivet.
yeah.
I love Glenlivet.
Galvos, what was the one that we always had in the house? Started with a D. Duelins? Is that one? No. What is it called? Doers.
Oh, Dewars, yeah. That's a blended.
Dewars. Yeah, that was the one that he would get in the handle. Big Dewars. Okay, so let's go to something that's like on your like and dislike list because you like sci-fi but you dislike robots. So, kind of clashing here. Let's start with sci-fi and then move into robots.
I would
So,
say the sci-fi would be more the subject matter. The robots would be, the specific things.
okay, okay.
I don't trust robots. I
That's
don't trust
fair.
robots.
That's fair. And we'll get into that in a second. But let's talk about your
I want to
favorite
like them.
sci-fis.
Shoot, I don't know. Ooh, I'm bad listing things, and well, definitely the two big classic, the stars.
Okay.
The stars. Those are big ones. I am a big fan of Roddenberry stuff and Lucas stuff. So
Okay.
yeah, I'm a Star Wars kid, Star Trek kid for sure. But I did also grow up on Doctor Who. So I was watching Doctor Who
Yes.
when all the other kids didn't know what the hell I was talking about. They're like, "Oh," what?" And you'd kind of like they would look at it. Next week it comes up again. Kids in school are making fun of you because like, oh, that grainy black and white, but it was stupid.
Yeah.
So like I was the only kid that liked Doctor Who, but I loved it. I loved it. I
Now,
was really relieved, like when it got popularized again. Christopher Eccleston came back, came and like made it a whole thing again. No one thanks Christopher Eccleston for people talking about Doctor Who now, but he was the one.
yeah,
He
that's
was the one.
I think that Galvos also agrees that Christopher Eccleston is his favorite. Um,
Hey, I don't know about fair, but I loved him. I think
yeah,
he is highly undercredited. He was a fantastic angry doctor.
I
He was
completely
really cool.
agree.
Like bitter after like the whole thing had happened, especially after the break that they had, and then he pops up. He was perfect for it.
I
I mean, the
agree.
actor didn't want to keep doing it, but
Right. Now,
he's an awesome doctor.
I my favorite doctor
Oh yeah,
is
yeah, yeah.
Matt Smith. Now,
Yeah, Matt Smith would be my favorite. Yeah,
yes, thank you.
he takes influences from Baker like heavily, and
Thank
just a lot of his
you.
little subtleties. Like we're on the lookout for an escaped fish. Like his weird little subtleties and stuff. But Matt Smith was cool
Nobody
as shit.
believes that Matt Smith is the favorite because he's so
Yeah, because no one's
popularized, I
cool.
guess. But in my opinion, he's what made me get into Doctor Who more. The storyline is more compelling. Amy and Rory is uh, just a phenomenal storyline in and of itself. Um,
He also had like a natural wonder and curiosity, I think. It was
yes,
like
it
a
was
subtle delivery that he
childlike.
brought out. Yeah, childlike innocence that he didn't have to make flamboyant or do all this like embellishment to. It was just like a natural thing. You could feel him feeling for the characters he was trying to protect all the time. So
Mm-hmm.
it was very easy for him to fit into the role. It was
Oh,
really
he
good for
did.
it.
He did great. He did great. Okay, we'll come off of that.
But books also mentions Dune. Yeah, that's definitely another one of those like huge influential big sci-fis to me. Dune, kind of into the whole monster culture. Dune and like aliens are part of it, but also as like childhood love. Uh, Dune's definitely up there as far as like their own little universes and stuff. There's like a whole political structure, religion in it, and it's like sort of dualities with our own. Sometimes the delivery and the writing itself. I've heard people explain it. Only read like a couple of the books, like all the way through. Really, mostly watch stuff, an audiobook or two. But you hear it where it's like a just kind of dreary and dull and slow, and then some stuff goes crazy, and like magical sand ninjas are popping out of the dirt, and then like they disappear, and like half your squad's fucked up, and then you start to realize like that really draws you into like if you're patrolled on some boring desert planet, like stuff's not gonna be going on, but you have to be on the alert because
Right.
giant worms come out of the ground to eat you, or like I said, like the gorilla sand ninjas just pop up,
Gotta
so you
watch
have
out
to
for
be like on
gorilla
the lookout.
sandwood. Yeah,
Yeah, the gorilla sand ninjas are nuts. I love the Fremen. So this is like one of the definitely like huge influential things to me. And then you start to see
Holy
other dualities and
shit.
influences in other sci-fi. You're like, people owe a lot to the whole Herbert thing, but
I
no one
know
quite like grabs it.
I know it's kind of behind your face here, but novels, if you look at the sheer amount of them,
It's a giant world. It's a giant world.
holy shit. Then
Yeah, and then
there's
other stuff like comics and things which are kind of canonized and still kind of part of the thing.
now, what did you think about Dune Part 1 that came out? Because it says Dune Part 2 is coming out this year. Did you see Dune?
Oh, it is dated. I have some mixed feelings, but I mean, I liked it. I liked it. Like the delivery on it and just the mood they captured on it. I definitely give it a thumbs up. It
Okay.
was definitely kind of cool. Like it doesn't have like a lot of the other classic sci-fi type of deliveries to it, but I like how they really brought its own kind of like world and sense. Like the Fremen felt strong. Like it felt like culture. Like they really delivered the Fremen. I thought in that one. So
Okay.
I'm definitely excited to keep watching this. Definitely excited to keep watching this
That's
because
excellent.
I thought it was pretty cool. I liked it. I've heard some crazy fanboys get a little crazy about it, but I don't know. Like I can handle things being adapted and changed around. It's not like Frank Herbert's really going to direct the movie and
Right,
finish that like
right.
it was supposed to be at this point. So like you're gonna have to deal with certain like little gray areas, but as long as they kind of capture a lot of the effects, like it plays out. And I thought some of the way that the characters came out, like I liked it. I liked it. The worms looked pretty damn cool. That was an important part for me. The Fremen again, that was another important part. You have to feel the religion and the politics behind them. Like you have to feel like their culture and their connection to the planet. And I thought they delivered that really well.
That's
I thought they
excellent.
delivered that
Now,
really well.
Books wants to know, does the fear is a mind killer quote resonate with you?
Fear is a mind killer. Fear is the little death that brings total oblivion. There's actually, it's a big thing actually. It's not even just fear is a mind killer. There's a lot to it actually, because there's actually other state. Pretty much the whole chant is kind of a way. It's sort of a statement of overcoming and mind over matter type of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So there is quite a bit more to it than just fear is the mind killer. But he's also being tested. If he didn't pass it, he was going to die. So it's like a high tense moment too. So it's also that other type of element of retaining focus on this thing you're supposed to recite, but at the same time like feel and believe. So I mean, it is a very impactful scene. It is like an important scene. I can't say it's like something that resonated with like always stuck with me
Okay.
um, on like some sentimental basis or anything that like molded and shaped me. But yeah, definitely something like cool scene. You stick to it, and it's like something that really brings out like Paul. You're like, yeah, Paul's badass.
Let's talk about robots. You like that?
Darn
That
robots.
was a good delivery. If anything, I think that I should win an award for that.
Receive your Fotsmo robot girlfriend.
Exactly. So tell me why you hate these little fuckers. What's up with that?
Well, a little bit on a joke level, because like my actual like philosophies and perspectives on how robotics, cybernetics, and stuff like that are going to get blended. I don't think it's really going to be like a lot of the fun sci-fi that's been out there, but a lot of my favorite stuff has been man versus robot. Terminator, Dune. Dune is after the Jacobite Rebellion. That is AI and stuff like trying to subjugate us. Essentially, they're taking over everything. So everything you see in Dune is after they've decided we're not going to have robots anymore because that was dangerous and they screwed us up. You don't really see it. You're on a desert planet and stuff, but that's a big thing about it. Just like Matrix. The Matrix, I feel at least chronologically, like the way they delivered the chronology of it, I feel like Matrix is inspired by Dune in like a little soft way, but I don't know. I've never seen the Wachowskis actually like mention it,
Okay.
but it's the same kind of thing where you have all this stuff going on, all these like things and stuff after the crazy stuff. So in the Matrix, it's called Second Renaissance. In Dune, it's called Jacobite Rebellion. Terminator, it's called Judgment Day. There's like a cataclysm where the robots take over and are trying to just like really push us down. I think it's really going to happen like that, though. I think it's necessarily going to be a competition sense, and especially when the robots get to the point where they can do the things that we talk about, it's probably going to be more of a blending and a merging and like kind of blurring how we define human and robot. I think it's going to be more the realistic, but also like synthetics. What is it? Synthetic biology is a frightening thing. I don't think robots are really even going to be the future, honestly. I think automated, like mechanical type of things like that, I just don't think it's going to be how it's going to be.
Now, real
We're getting
quick,
into
have you
synthetic
seen?
biology and
Uh,
actual nanos,
oh
and
yeah.
that's,
Tell
yeah.
me real quick. Have you seen anyone play Detroit Become Human?
I've heard about it.
I highly suggest, like
Infozar,
100.
yeah,
Yes.
Infozar told me to check that. I totally forgot to look that up.
Yeah.
Shoot, yeah,
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
told me about that. I was
Detroit
like, wait a
Become
minute, why do I
Human
know
is
that?
a
That's
fantastic video game.
yeah, I need to try that one.
And just watch somebody play it on Twitch. Just type it in, or go ahead and YouTube it. But it's all of the ones that your choices become something else. Like it's a choice based game.
Yeah,
But it's basically about the robots taking over, and trying to have that synergy between robots and humans. And do robots have feelings, and what are their rights? And oh my god,
yeah,
it's so good.
it's always a fascinating thing because I think at the heart of that, you're kind of blurring the things because I think intrinsically, like we know, like the lines are kind of blurred. So you analyze everything that's going on, individual little parts doing all the different little things. You've got some are like essentially hydraulics where you're using pressure to like maintain the thing. How our entire reproductive system is a hydraulic system, pretty much. So like you have parts and stuff, iron, zinc, and all that kind of stuff. Like the physical material of the robot versus us really isn't all that different. And actually, us making robots like on just as we see them and stuff, deciding things, walking around like a form, choosing its own stuff, autonomous, is us copying mental processes and psychology that we know, like observing human, animal life, and stuff like that. So I think intrinsically, it's a fascination of like where we decide things and like what the verge is like where are we just what was it? Meat robots, electrical meat. I think the streamer was describing us as like electrical meat computers, pretty much. Like,
Yeah.
where is that verge? Like, where you define as life? Because you always have that debate of like the synthetics and all that kind of stuff, like the artificial. We can't let them, and sometimes their perspective of fighting for their rights and coming of existence. I don't want to say coming of age, but the same kind of thing where they're
Right.
acknowledging their existence, their awakening. There's a lot of really cool just fiction just about the whole thing. So it's just an interesting element, for fictional writing. I feel, but at the same time, just seated in something I think deep rooted in a lot of us. You see a lot of philosophy, religion, kind of about like I was talking about the what, this being more on the why side of things, like or I should say the how physical stuff becomes like life. because it's going to be so
Mhm.
fleeting. It's just like going to go away. What's the fucking point? What is it? You have all these other philosophies of, oh, it's just an imagination, and other ideas of, I think, therefore I am. So there's like a heavy thing, and I think we're all fascinated by it, and we see it and can explore it in different ways with robot stories. So I mean,
Right.
I love the sci-fi of it, but like robots taking us over is kind of scary. At least
I
once
agree.
upon a time. Now, synthetic biology, I don't think it's going to happen that way. It's going to be more of a blending. We're not going to know we're becoming this other species essentially.
All right,
But at
so
the same time, like I've felt for robot characters. Like Mass Effect had the Geth. I loved them.
mm-hmm.
The Borg and Star Trek. So there's plenty of times where robots or at least mechanical type of like species have come about, and it's a fascinating thing. The movie Chappie, that's a big exploration on kind of more the awakening of sentience or what the actual consciousness is, rather than man versus robot, but action basis. That's what's happening.
Right, right.
That's what's happening. You have man versus robot. Who is it? Hugh Jackman. Hugh Jackman
Ooh,
versus Robot. But
okay.
Chappie is an awesome robot movie. Awesome
Okay, we're
robot
going to
movie.
go to that in a second. For anybody who doesn't know what synthetic biology is, because we keep talking about it,
Scary.
multidisciplinary field of science that focuses on living systems and organisms and applies to engineering principles to develop new biological parts, devices, and systems, or to
Short circuit. Yeah.
redesign existing systems found in nature. Short circuit. Exactly. Now,
Yeah.
tell me
Man
about
tried to
this
galve
movie.
us on a short circuit.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. He knows all about it. He's very interested in a lot of the stuff that
No
we've been talking
disassemble.
about. Mm-hmm. What is the
No
movie that you
disassemble.
just mentioned? The movie that you were saying with Hugh Jackman.
Oh, Chappie.
Chappie
Chappie. IE.
film. Got it. Dystopian science fiction action film.
I love
Um,
dystopian stuff in general.
The
I just
film
have an attraction
set
towards it.
in Johannesburg. It's an artificial general intelligence law enforcement robot captured and taught by gangsters. We name it Chappie. Now, real quick, what about things like iRobot and movies like that? No, that's kind of scary. iRobot with what is that? Will Smith, right? Where
I think sometimes like iRobot does have like interesting stuff, but I think it's more the story flow of it seems to be based on more kind of conceptual ideas on how they should be.
mm-hmm.
So for me, like especially like the Will Smith one, like it's good, it's cool. It didn't sink in quite the same way. Like whereas Chappie I think has like a practical side to it because he's interacting with just regular people, and that's where he's learning, and it really paints the whole perspective of if you're awakening a consciousness like some entirely new species, you're gonna have some kind of child dynamic growth, infancy to maturity type of gauge of some sort, and they capture that with Chappie. He was like almost a child and hanging out with these just goofy people, but at the same time they both end up kind of learning off of each other, so you can relate with the characters a little bit more than you can relate with Will Smith.
So
Like you
you're
can just
telling me
relate with it a bit
that
more.
Will Smith's iRobot doesn't really slap you in the face, like as well as
Yeah, it doesn't slap me in the face. It's a cool movie. And it's not. I don't have anything bad to say about it at all. It just doesn't have the same like connection impact because again, that's more the delivery of it's a heavy concepts of like, oh, human or you can't let them hurt humans, and then sort of like the logic, conundrum of it, the contradiction of the whole process. So it seems to me like that one's like more of like a dive into the concepts and stuff of it rather than kind of an exploration of the practicality of how we might see something like that kind of happen and all that kind of stuff.
right. Now I'm
So I guess
laughing
more
because I don't know if you
fantastical as opposed
ever
to practical.
saw why Will Smith is being canceled. It's because he slapped Chris Rock across the face.
But Will
So
Smith,
Will
yeah,
Smith
yeah,
slapped Chris Rock across the face, and so I said,
find that whole thing odd.
right. So I Robot's Will Smith didn't slap you across the face. It didn't hit you hard enough.
Oh yeah, yeah, I see what you're talking about. Yeah, I
Thank
missed
you.
the pun.
Thank you. It's
Over my head.
okay.
My
Where I was
bad.
like,
My bad.
I have to repeat it because I think that was
My bad.
damn
You're
good.
talking about well, I tend to, yeah, that's that kind of like pop culture or celebrity
I
hubbub
ignore
type of
it as
stuff.
best
Like
I
it doesn't
can,
end up,
but
I know about it, and then it doesn't end up being like where my brain goes to immediately when trying to pair with a joke.
no, I get it.
Over my head.
All right, so real
I
quick,
do get it. It's just slow on it.
I
Sorry.
want to talk about AI, the movie AI. What about that one?
AI had some stuff in it was a little too just like trying to be overly dramatic, sort of. I mean, it was kind of cool, but at the same time, eh.
It's a Spielberg
I
film.
the end of it, yeah, it had like some overly Kubrick, like Spielberg stuff to it. That was
Yeah.
all.
Now there was
That's all.
another one. Will Smith is a robot. I'm
Although I did like the robot in it. Gigolo Joe, what do you know? I've been quoting that ever since I saw AI.
yes.
Gigolo Joe, what do you know?
The what's the movie with Will Smith as the robot? That one is really fucking sad. Anybody in chat know which one that is? Will Smith is a robot and he has to go through. Oh shit! Now I
Last
gotta.
Will Smith movie was he
Oh,
had to
not Will
fight a
Smith. What? Will
clone of
Smith. Robin
himself.
Williams. Robin Williams as robot.
That's a totally different name.
Bicentennial Man.
That's really sad.
Bicentennial
That's really
Man.
sad. Yeah, that's a sad one. It's been a minute though.
Short Circuit for Life.
Yeah, I love Short Circuit.
Okay, so Bicentennial
No
Man is
disassemble.
like so freaking sad. Um, and so what do you think about this robot concept?
It's one I hadn't watched a whole lot. I just remember being kind of sad and hadn't really like visited. I know it doesn't pop up a whole bunch, and I don't. I know a bit about Asimov. It's just like paying attention to Bicentennial Man. Honestly, I'm just not entirely familiar with the. As far as like recalling scenes and stuff like that, it's just not been my main focus.
No,
Honestly,
that's
I just
fine.
remember being kind of sad and just haven't revisited a whole bunch.
That's
Robin
fair.
Williams fan, don't get me wrong,
Oh, of course. Okay, so you
but
guys
that's
keep
definitely
talking
a
about
different
Short
tone.
Circuit, science
Yeah, no
fiction
disassemble
comedy.
Johnny Five. Johnny Five is awesome.
So, so Nova laboratory robotics experts developed several prototype robots for the
That
U.S.
might be why I love
military.
Chappie.
Then they rather seek peaceful applications of robots, and after live demonstration of military, one of the Union's units is struck by lightning, arcing through the lab's power grid, and it scrambles its programming and makes it sentient.
I love how basic he looks. I love how basic he looks.
Who looks?
Johnny Five, the main robot. Well,
Oh,
the main
okay.
character is basically robot.
Okay.
Well, I guess you can argue that Gutenberg's the main character. I don't know. Or I
So
guess the girl.
so the electricity hits them, right? Short circuit. What is it about this movie particularly, or this, is it a book? No, it's a movie. What is it about this movie that makes you go like, that's a friggin' fantastic movie? Because you guys are all talking about it. So
Well, partly the nostalgia, just from it being, you know, growing up with it, being like one of the first robot movies. But oddly enough, now come to think of it, I think that I never actually connected. I think that's like part of my thing with Chappie because there's still that like innocence and something just charming and lovable about the robot as he learns how people are, some of the nice things, some of the other brutal stuff. I didn't realize there's actually such a duality between Short Circuit and Chappie. Never clicked before. But yeah, it's a lot of the same things I loved about Chappie, just the exploration on like what consciousness is and like becoming self-aware. It's kind of like that grandiose thing, just more brought down to something like this. It doesn't have to be chokingly profound. It can be kind of cute and still kind of on the same point.
that makes sense. I agree. Now, number five, later nicknamed Johnny Five.
No disassemble Jenny Five. I've been
Hell
quoting that stuff for a long time. Need input when I'm hungry. You need input.
yeah. Yeah, I love how certain movies when we're younger and things like that just tick in our brains, and then all of a sudden we like use those phrases over and over and over again. I like the
Yeah, like
little
book
flying
switching.
alien
Yeah.
mechanical life forms and batteries not included. Have you seen
That
that
was the
one?
other one. Like at one point, I loved robots because it was like that. It was batteries not included in Short Circuit. But that was also when I was younger and I was seeing a lovable side of robots exclusively.
Right.
But then thinking about other kind of perspectives and other possibilities and stuff, it's just like, well, yeah, actually, if they decided they were dominant and were making more of themselves, I mean, yeah, I still think that's like a fantastical view at this point. But still, makes good sci-fi.
1987 American science fiction comedy film, living spaceships that save an apartment block under threat of property development. Interesting.
So this was a special one because they're cute little UFOs, and they're aliens. They're just robots. So before Terminator, or I'm sorry, Transformers,
Mm-hmm.
aliens come down and make friends with humans and stuff. Before modern day crazy explosions, Transformers, there's batteries not included. Well, excluding like original Transformers, like the
Right.
cartoon and stuff.
So we're gonna end here because we're about at 2 hours. What specifically do you feel? And this is an open-ended question that you're gonna hate because it sounds like
Uh
you don't like open-ended questions.
oh.
What specifically, maybe on your list or on your dislike lists or whatever you gave me, do you feel like we didn't touch on that you would like to touch on?
Let me pull it back up because I generally tend to just go on crazy thought trains.
Yeah,
I told you I was gonna talk your
it's
ear off. I
perfect. I
warned you.
love it.
I would say philosophy was kind of one of those, but I guess I keep coming back to it because it's like rooted in a lot of my interests in things, just the why and stuff of it. So maybe the cultural differences actually, because
Okay.
that's a big thing.
Okay.
That's a big thing.
So let's touch on that for a small bit. So cultural differences. What specifically are you referring to?
Just kind of just the element of it. Just different religious backgrounds. People growing up in like one spot, just over hundreds of years, forming this kind of tradition, that kind of tradition, language, and how it comes about. But the kind of the mixing, or at least exposing like one to another one, it's done a lot with our species. Like our entire species has been driven by this kind of thing. But nowadays we want to boil it down to like race wars and all this other kind of stupid stuff. And like there's still like a little bit of a kind of limited view on the whole thing when music, art, I mean our species has been going around the planet forever.
Right.
And being able to explore art and stuff in all these kind of different ways. I mean philosophies and stuff. Like all these different ideas coming together so that people can kind of come up with this one or that one, kind of, I guess, piecing together the grand picture a little bit more. I mean, if you're gonna get limited and focus on like one thing, it's not gonna do it for you.
Right.
But I think every time it's why at least our country is supposed to be a salad bowl, a mixing pot, supposed to be a blending of different things, so they can still. We're supposed to be able to retain our individuality amongst others, still like retaining their individuality, so we can
Right.
celebrate all the crazy little things like that, learn all of the stuff. So that's where you get different dishes, different musics, different inspirations to music,
Right.
you know, all that kind of stuff kind of comes about. It's the interconnectedness and the sharing the stuff. So I just kind of on a entire species evolution basis, it's all the crazy stuff I like about Twitch, kind of just
Yeah.
that like interaction, showing you're going to get limited thinking, this kind of stuff is just like we mess with plants here. You're not really going to get a musical sense. You're going to think like just plants and it's going to be just the status quo, unless you're going to other streams and seeing the music and you're getting high vibes and all this other kind of different things like that. So it's just
That's
a kind of a thing like that. Like I like the being able to kind of mix and learn those things. It's hugely important. It's hugely important. I
yeah.
do think it's a shame that we want to boil it down to like ethical issues
Yep.
and things like that, where people have to fight for their fucking rights because I mean, like it's been kind of ridiculous in our history, but
Yeah, one of the
at the
things that
same
I
time, like
literally just read
a lot
was
of good comes
that
from it.
little girls are not
Oh
allowed to.
snap! We get a raid.
We got another raid?
No, I did.
Oh, I
Holy
was
crap!
like, what? um, is it a
I
big
keep
raid?
going to say. Well, yeah, it's like 14 people
Oh,
from Your
okay.
Face is Pretty.
Oh, hi, your face is pretty. um, but yeah, so we're talking about. I thought that this was a good one, which is cross cultural psychology. Basically saying that we have this under diverse cultural conditions. So the melting pot you were talking about, the salad bowl with bacon bits. This is the
Exactly, bacon bits.
this is the big thing that we focus on is interconnectedness
Yeah,
and harmony with being different, and being okay with being different. And right now, that's not happening. Right now, that's completely
a bit.
being abandoned. Um,
Because at the same time, like when we're talking about this kind of stuff, we're still utilizing it. We're still like embracing it. So I don't understand like why we need to hold on these like old preclusions of like some kind of superiority, like us more than you, them lesser than us. Like it's kind of weird, especially like genetically, racially. A lot of us are mutts. It's a little archaic to like view the superiority side of it. Like
yeah,
I think as a species we probably ought to have been past it at this point.
not
Because I mean,
only
our
that.
technology and stuff, it's very global. It's like on a daily basis, we're using stuff made in China, maybe just designed in Japan, eating stuff that was, recipes built up and developed over so long somewhere in Europe or something like that. So like your diet is based on something from here. This kind of irrigation process could have been something I don't know the Romans did over
Right,
Italy.
right.
All this kind of stuff is from different groups that if you want to and you look at it, you can find the line and find the difference and find the reason to be like, oh no, we don't like you, but that thing you do is actually pretty useful for sanitizing food. So we're gonna
So
salt our
yeah, we're
stuff.
gonna
So
do
it's just like if
that.
we're gonna use the stuff, like why not? Why does it like why do the essentially the clothes matter all that much?
Now tell me how that integrates with Twitch again. Go more into that because I think that's fascinating.
Because it's like a full embracement, like a full embracing of the whole thing. All kinds of craziest stuff. Hobbies, music. You can find philosophy and everything. Reading, and it's so easy and welcoming. Like oddly enough, Twitch is the side that's like basically benefiting from us slaving away making the free content for them. But at the same time, it creates an open environment where we can just freely jump place to place, introduce our people together and stuff. You can go to a spot, learn some new stuff. Like I'm blown away, absolutely touched by people coming in here, getting inspiration to stick sticks and tubes, propagate it, or to go out in their garden just because they saw some crazy guy like playing around with plants.
Yeah.
People get inspiration to music. I think you started playing. uh, I know a music streamer taught you to play guitar. Is that right?
So I learned how to play guitar about 11 years ago.
Oh,
But
okay.
I
So it was a
was
brush up. Okay.
never good at it. And then I started playing again, and I decided that I was going to practice more on Twitch because that would force me to practice more. And I know basic chords. And then within doing
We're
that, I
thinking
was able to
correctly.
go to an open mic for a musician on Twitch. So he was the key performer, and I was able to go to open mic and perform one of my own songs in front of people for the first time because of a music streamer. So that's kind of
Yeah,
the
it's cool. You can inspiration to pick up something, start learning things. So it's like it's an easy approach to just I don't know how to put it, exploring hobbies, learning some kind of thing. It's an easy approach without a lot of the other stuff. You don't have to pay for some kind of class to do some kind of thing. At the same time, it just feels like hanging out. So you can do some little social kind of thing, and at the same time, all this other stuff going on. So if you're wanting vibe, you go to music and you're chilling and partying, watching somebody either practicing their thing. So you're vibing, they are practicing, trying to get better at some kind of thing, exploring, music, writing it as they're doing it, like mutation.
mm-hmm.
We go there and we hang out and we vibe. He's working on making stuff.
Yeah.
So it's just like it's just a very nice symbiotic thing that just fits both sides. But then also the raid system on here just
Mm-hmm.
encourages and creates an element of sharing positivity, exposing to each other, meeting, learning all the kind of different stuff. So it's a surprising way to be able to facilitate other dynamics that we've sort of captured in cultures on a grand scale.
Yeah, and the supportiveness of a community is
Yeah, the community
just
sense.
yeah,
It's like that community element is in there, learning all the different little things and still being able to retain that individuality within whatever kind of group. It's strange how it can kind of create a place of belonging, but it's just kind of weird to me just thinking about the dualities of just the dynamics in Twitch versus how we set up laws and politics and moral
yeah.
ethics in our own cultures. Just that combination of different types of people's thoughts, ways of life, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So tell me real quick, because we do need to end soon.
Chop chop.
How it's just because of me. I can't sit for too much longer. Um, but
Yeah,
tell
if you've seen, I'm shifting. I can't. I'm horrible at sitting still.
it's tell me how you felt about how this went. Tell me,
It sucked.
yeah, good. I want to hear the feedback. That's why I'm asking the question. But definitely tell me how you felt about this. Tell me if there's, like I said, anything else that you wanted to touch on. Kind of give me the rundown of how you felt about today.
It was a lot of fun. It was a blast. It was a blast. I honestly don't have any critiquing.
Okay.
We just came on, we talked a bit. Yeah, honestly, I don't.
Good. I
Yeah, I'm
just
having a
wanted to hear
blast.
that you had fun and that it was
Yeah,
something
absolutely.
that was productive for you. So I loved it. I love hearing you talk. I love everything that comes out of your mouth. I think that you are a mad plant genius, but also a genius in your own right. I think your thoughts are fascinating, and I think that you are a great human being, and I'm glad you exist.
Thank you. I'm flattered.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for having me on here. Well, actually, you know what? If we are ending this out, I'm going to go ahead and merge the chats in case. Yeah, it looks like they're. I don't know how I have viewers. That's the craziest thing. Thank you guys. All right, so let me just bring everybody over here real quick.
Okay.
Hopefully they can hear all of it enough. I know my volumes are down. Like I said, we do have like a bunch of stuff like on the actual scene to fully show.
Yeah.
So let me see.
Thanks to both of you for being the other soundtrack to my Zoom meeting. Happy to be that for you, Jack. Are you gonna
Oh,
raid into me so I could raid out?
yes, I am.
Okay.
Invalid username. Damn it! How did I do that?
Two A's.
I
The
do. I know the
Rustine
double A.
Panda. All
I
right.
know the double A.
The extra A is for awesome. That's what I tell people because I. That's how I tell people.
Created.
And I am going to look for someone to raid. Now, next week, we are going to have the Elder Gamesman, who's a part of the community that I had from Mixer. Um, he is a phenomenal person who is very vibrant and very supportive of all channels. He loves playing things like Monster Hunter and what is it, Wild Hearts. But his channel is like booming with fun. So let's talk. Let's see him next week. Thank you for the raid. I love how you have the raid
Surprise.
call. Ibsen, thank you for the follow. Okay, so we're gonna probably go over to. Let's see.
I'm not gonna lie. I wanted to put Jingle Bells in when they
Yeah,
raided.
I wish that would have been really cool. Chan, thank you so
Sorry,
much
I
for
guess I
coming on
should have.
in. Yeah, let's see. We can go to Asian Station. We can go back to Social Distance Canada again. I really like rating into them. I think that they deserve more credit than they get.
Yeah, they're
So we
super
are
cool.
going to raid Socially Distant Canada. Um, please join me on this raid. I have no raid call. I still need to work on one. But for the most
Tisk
part,
tisk tisk.
I know. For the most part, we're going to head on over to there. Thank you again, everybody. I hope you had fun. And I love you all. And you guys are brilliant. Thank
Put
you.
on, guys.